Hey, it's Dan, and welcome to Unified Gaming. So in this one, I want to go through and just kind of showcase some skills that you could use in the new kind of scribing system and how they would actually work for PvP. I've gone through on the PTS and I'm just setting up some real builds that would actually use, and we're going to kind of put skills that I think would really amplify it and just make them better. As with this, if you get any questions about what I'm doing though, then let me know in the comments and I'll do the best to reply. But it's going to be more of a casual stream this one and just showing what I'm thinking. So first and foremost, I'm on the Magicka Warden. And what I'm kind of doing is looking at how we could try and make more of a Frost Warden. And I've been able to make some really good stuff on the Sulk that would actually really make this better. So what I'm currently doing is making just a kind of generic Magicka Warden I would use. So Master's Ice Staff, Rallying Cry, 1 Baron, 1 Magma, and an Ice Furnace. This will give you loads of sustained damage. You would have obviously the crit resist, which is awesome, makes you tanky, and the weapon damage from Rallying Cry. So I'm going to just put the glyphs on, put the food on, and just get the build where it would look, and then we'll look at how we can use the skills to make it really, really good. Pizza Crusher's asking, do you think there will be scribing skills that might work with Oaken Soul? Yes is the answer. The Sorcerer in particular is probably the best Oaken Soul scribing combo you'll get, because their class mastery is one of the better ones in my opinion. So I'm just looking at putting on some just general bits to give a rough stat page of what we would expect. So I've almost finished setting up this one, and then I'll show you what the Sorcerer had. The Sorcerer had the best spammable for scribing, in my opinion, for PvP. Like, actually, it is really good. It's dirt cheap, it hits like a truck, and you can buff your shields, you can drop your monster set with this, which is really nice. Or you can make it give you the armor debuff, which gives you another bar slot. So it has so many options for Sorcerer. On this, I'm just going to chuck on the Lover Mundus and just fix all the skills, and then we'll go and see how scribing would work with the Warden. The one thing I would note though to Peter's question was, with Oaken Soul, it will work for some builds, but less bar space, less options. So just do factor that in, if that makes sense. So I'm going to quickly just transmute a few items. And then what I want to do is make this Magicka Warden really feel like an Ice Warden. That's kind of the plan. So the staff would be sharpened. Rallying Cry would be defending. And all the appeal would just be impen. That won't really affect tooltips. But the jewelry will. I'm just going to infuse all the jewelry quickly. And then we can jump back into the Skillarium. And then look at what the skills would actually be. So let me just grab the jewelry glyphs. So I'd normally use some regen and some spell damage. Just looking for glyph of magical harm. We can use physical as like a stopgap. Hey, you're right, Revolut. Is this Dan? Yes, it's Dan. So our sustain at the moment is 1600. I would probably, in all honesty, use 2 damage. And I could probably make that sustain work for me with how I play the build. You might want 1 more. For the testing, because we can't proc Rallying Cry in PvE land, I'm just going to chuck on an extra damage glyph, just to kind of make the tooltips be reflective to what we would actually see when it's buffed. And then on a Warden, we would normally use Deep Fissure. So we would have Deep Fissure go here. You'd have Bird of Prey that will go on the right slot. You would have a Blue Betty in the back bar. Ice Fortress here. Normally Arctic Wind or Polar Arctic Blast, so we'll put that there. You often need to use Vigor, unfortunately, because Warden does lack healing power. So I'm hoping we can fix that. That's the big gripe I have with Warden at the moment, is we don't have any good heals. You have to like chuck on so many heals to make this thing work. It's actually quite depressing. For the back bar, you probably have vines as well. I'm just saying that's pretty much what a Warden would run normally with probably Dawnbreaker. So this is kind of like a generic Magicka Warden that I would use. Now this LB is a flex spot, so I'm just going to put something there. We obviously need to have Ice Reach. And I was using the Vampire Spammable last patch, so we might change that though. We'll go for something like Swarm. Fetcher Infection can go there. Battle Bar, we got a spare slot. Tree Ult was really good. Or Dawnbreaker. Sorry, the Ice Storm. So this is what we'd probably run in all honesty. And I'd put some points into health. So I'd have aimed at 30k health. So we've got the rough build done. And then we can kind of get a feel for what we could change now and really amplify this. And that's what I want to do in this video. If you get any questions with what to test though, or like, Dan, could you try X or Y, then obviously let me know in the comments. So we got to the Scholarium. So one of the things I was thinking with Magicka Warden, and we can get a good idea of our tooltips. We do have some CP and Master at Arms and Deadly Aim. That's kind of what you'd use. Is we need to see, can we fix the healing? Magicka Warden has a real problem with healing. Like a massive, massive problem with it. And so often you have to run Focus Mending. Or you have to stack really high health. If you stack the high health, your damage does get limited though. Okay, so we've got the kind of bits now. So what I want to do is see, can we first look at getting some more damage in? For the damage skills, we have the following choices. Elemental Explosion. This isn't going to work in PvP. For how you play Magicka Warden, you're too mobile. This is very good on towers, or it's very good if you're on a keep wall shooting other people who are stationary or static, or in choke points. But for actual fighting, I don't think this will cut it. So that leaves us really with Soul Burst, Willed Soul, Torchbearer, Alfred's Contingency, or Trample. Willed Soul, in order to have a burst heal, which I need, I'm probably going to use this because it's a 12,000 hit tooltip. We can then get the Magicka back, and then Vitality. So it's 4,400 Magicka, but we get 1,000 back, so it's 3,400 Magicka to cast this for a 12,000 heal. Our Arctic Blast equivalent is 8,300. So we don't get the damage. So if we change this to Polar Wind, for example, this can go up to about 14,000, and you get a heal over time of 3,000. So we would lose that heal over time, but we would have Major Vitality. So I reckon if you want to go for more of a damage Warden, what we could do, which is what I want to do, is use the Healing Soul on my back bar as my burst heal. So then when I'm low resources, we've got a 13,000 hit tooltip. Like, this is really good. And when we cast it, so if we cast it on ourselves, there you go. We've got the Vitality. That Major Vitality will increase it, so it's 15,000. So that's 7.5k hits and 24k crits, so 12,000 crits. So we could use this as our burst heal, which I think would be really, really nice. Obviously, we don't have Mending up either. If we had Mending, that would go even higher. So I think what we could do is we could keep Arctic Wind and go for Arctic Blast and use it as a damage and a stun, which is what we lack on Warden. Because the heal isn't going to help us. We don't care about this heal. Like, it's an 11,000 tooltip. It's not bad. Don't get me wrong. But this is 13,000 is Major Vitality. It's cheaper. So I think this is better. If you guys obviously disagree, then obviously say it in the chat. I think this would be better for Magicka Warden's heal. And then we could then keep the Arctic Wind as a stun. So that's one way to do this. So go for Arctic Blast, that's our stun. It's also a damage over time, which will proc the Ice Furnace. So it's a 10k heal. So 11,147 versus 13,000. So this is higher, and it's cheaper, and it's Vitality. The other thing we might want to do though is maybe change this to a stun, because we don't have a stun. So Arctic Blast looks like it's been buffed this patch, because this isn't normally this high. This build only has 3,900 spell damage. When it's buffed, 4.5k. So I wonder whether they buff that, because it's not normally that high. It's normally like 8-9k at most. I'm just going to jump to the house in a moment. I was then looking at an AoE spammable, because Willed Soul, it could be our damage skill. So if you look at its tooltip, we could make it shock damage, which is 8.8k, and then a dot, 10,000, 7,000 dot. So this would be 14,000 over 20 seconds. So it's like the Ice Reach dot. The Oblivion damage got nerfed. Look, this isn't good now. Like, I wouldn't use this. It doesn't do enough damage in my opinion. It's too low. So I would probably suggest, and let me move the things out of the way. 1 second. Get that one stuck on, and then I'm going to move that up here. There you go. Sorry about that. So yeah, I don't think Willed Soul's good spammable for Magicka Warden. I don't think it does enough, in my opinion. Dynasty Gamer says, have I looked at Stam Arcanist yet? Currently, a little bit, but not massively, and that's what I want to do in this video. So for the Magicka Warden, I'm probably going to leave this as my burst steal, or a stun. Let's go with stun, because actually that's something I always lack, and it's to have a 3-second stun is really nice. We'll see if maybe you can make more use out of the stun. So 3-second stun. We could then add on a dot. So that's not much. It's only 600 damage, which will be like 200 in PvP. We'd then use Cruelty, because that's like 450 Oblivion, so that will be higher than the Torment dot. And then I'll probably go for Defile. So if we did this, we would stun them, prevent their healing, and it will give an Oblivion dot. It's not a massive dot, but this has a 5-second cooldown, so we can't spam this. Let me grab the calculator. 1 second. If we go 30,000 times 0.015, so it's 1.5%. It's only 450,000. So it's only 450. And that's up to 900. So and that's every second. So I don't think this is enough. What is the Torment? That's 6,000. Which obviously will get halved in PvP. So 6070 times. Oh, sorry about that. I hit the wrong button. Times. Well, you can lose 50%, so 0.5. And then divide that by 10. So you look at 303 minus armor. So what I'm doing is just looking at whether the heal or the status dot is better. So 303. Dot is, you'll notice the FPS reduces when I'm not on the window. Dot is 303 minus armor, so around 200. That's the difference between the two there. So I honestly think if we did Willed Soul with Stun, Lingering Torment, just because this Cruelty has a 5-second cooldown, and this is like global, so you can't spam this. Like this dot, you can't put. We'll check quickly. But last time I checked this, you can't keep putting this on lots of people at once. It's one person cooldown, and then Defile. So I'm just going to quickly jump to just some NPCs just to go kill some stuff. There's some zombies down here. With the Stam Arcanist going to Dynasty's Gaming though, when I was testing it, the big thing you can add is that burst heal. So if you went down the route of Ravager, for example, which is what I use personally, you get a really big burst heal. It's like 15, 16,000 tooltip. It is ridiculously high. So looking at the stun, so I'm just seeing like Daisy and Soul. So can we put this on lots of things? That's test one quick. Because last time you couldn't, it didn't let you do it. Windy consumables, I need loads of soul gems. Done. Because that's the dot. That's the dot there. Okay. Okay, so the issue is that you can't put that dot on lots of things. It only goes on one person. Okay, so that means that's a no. That's an instant no. That's pointless. Like, if you're going to do some damage, you might as well have it consistent. Then not. You're right, Streak. So what I'm doing, if people have just joined, by the way, is I'm looking at PvP builds that we would actually use, and then what skills could we use from the scribing system to make them better. And I'm not kind of putting it just because it's fun. It needs to actually be an improvement, or it's pointless. Streak says, I can't come on Friday to Saturday. A new PC costs you a ton of real life crowns. Savage. Yeah, computers are very expensive currently. Very expensive. Alright, so I think what we'll do then is we'll keep this as our stun, but we'll change this to Lingering Torment. Or that heal over time. It's not much though. Again, it's halved. So we want stun, druids. So that's what we have currently. Obviously, like that. This cruelty isn't worth it. The mastery isn't worth it in my opinion. It's a bit gimmicky. Doesn't do enough. It's not a lot of healing, is it? Like if it was like this every 4 seconds, this would be good, but this is not high enough, so that's pointless. It's only like these two. So your PC is over 10 years old. You bought an RTX 4080, a Ryzen 7 and 7800 3D. 2k euro. That is a very nice PC. That is like that is an upgrade of mine. I've got an RTX 3080 with a Ryzen 59X. So yeah, that's a very nice PC. Yeah, it's this signature script. I can't really. There isn't anything good. I think actually just the sustain will probably be better. The dot damage is too low. The heal's too low. The ult gem could be nice. 4 ult every 5 seconds. So consumer majorities generate 4 ults up to once every. Again, it's not massive though. Yeah, I'm gonna go with this. So I want to recommend stun, druid, and then defile. So we can stun people, reduce the healing, and it's quite cheap. Because then that will give us a ranged stun. So then what I would then do is... that can go there. We would use Destructive Reach, which is Ice Reach, so it's a spammable with a dot, which is nice. We've got our stun now, which you don't normally have, so this is really helpful. On the back bar, we need to have some heals, so we will probably need to have Living Trellis, Betty, and Arctic. So we'll change Arctic to Polar Wind, I think, because we don't need that stun anymore. Living Trellis, and then we just need our Betty. Let me just go grab a crown scroll quick. You'll find with a lot of the scribing skills from testing them is they're kind of like, they're good, but they're very niche. So like you have to have like a real specific use for it. That's really freaking loud what that guy's doing over there. Really freaking loud. So yeah, let me just change. Polar Wind is that. Now, obviously I know that's lower, but when we put on our toughness and stuff, that'll go up, and it's got a heal over time. So there's 9,000 already. We would aim for 30k health, so we get a attribute respec. And then this is probably what I'm going to do on my Magical Warden for next patch, just for people curious. So we'll probably go as 2k, that should put us around 30 with toughness. Oh, that had toughness on, I didn't realise I had it on saturate. Okay, we need to drop a bit more. What's the heal though? 9.9k. Yeah, I think this is probably the better setup for it. So one skill we could use is, this is good. Dazing Soul, I'm going to take a picture for my Discord. This is what I would use for my Magical Warden. That's actually worth using. The other thing that I did test, which I want to show as well, is if you play in an AOE, so a ball group for example, the Soul Burst, the damage is like 6k, but if you go to Contingency, the damage is 6.5k. It's significantly higher. This is also 8 meter radius, and it has a fixed anti called Warrior's Opportunity, which adds 2,000 to it. So this is now 8,500. This is now spammable. This is an AOE spammable that we can spam this, and it applies to all people. So it's really, really good. So I would probably use it like this. This is what I have currently, because this will make them take more damage. We get a good dot, a good AOE, sorry, and a good boost. So then what we could do, if you wanted to go for more melee and AOE damage, so rather than being like range single target, which is what this is, we could go with Chilling Contingency. 8,300 plus 2,000, that's 10,300 there. For context, the Ice Reach, put it on this bar just so you can see it, is 8,900, so this would actually hit harder. 7.5, so 9,500 first, 8,900. So this will be a better spammable than this. And it's an AoE, so we could probably use this. And then what we could also do with this, let me put on the Fisher back, is if you compare that to Impulse, this is 7,000. Now, Frost just provides minor protection. So this is going to be a better AoE. And again, just put my damage buff on. 7,500 versus 7,100. So the initial tooltip is higher, and it's got that 2,000 bonus. The way this works is when you cast it once, it does nothing. It puts a buff on you here, and then when you cast something else, it then procs. And if you just keep casting it then, this is now my AoE spammable. So I think I will probably try this with my Magicka Warden as well. If you want to be like in melee and be kind of in a ball group, this could be quite good. It hits every person around you. This is actually quite a good skill. I'm just going to take a picture of this for my Discord again. So let me just... And we'll just show you what it does. It also doesn't have a target cap currently. I don't know whether that's going to be fixed. But that means that you can use this skill and be able to still move around, hit 10, 15, 20, 30 people with this, which is really freaking good. So I'm just going to see what it's like down here. And I know these are like obviously NPCs. We'll just pull all of these over. And because it's ice damage, again, it will proc our Ice Furnace. So the question is, can Ice Furnace proc massively? Ready? Yeah, so that works really well, that does. And you can obviously weave between this. It's got a pretty good range, as you can see. So I think this could be quite a good skill. I was testing, by the way. This 2000 applies to this skill as well. I did test that. I don't know if it applies to every enemy, though. That's something I need to test, actually. I thought it was like a single-use buff. So it applies to one. We're going to just get some enemies. We'll cast it and just see. In theory, they should have the same number. 77133. That looked like the same number, that did. $7,490. Yeah, so that 2000, it appears that that's applying to all enemies. Because if it was applying to just one, it would only... you'd have like one person with a higher like damage received. 7133, 7133. So that was the same there. Yeah, so I think this could be quite a nice little group, actually, doing that. And obviously you can do it with Deep Fissure. So yeah, they're the skills that I would use on Magicka Warden. The only other skill we could use, actually, is a heal from the Fighters Guild. We're looking at kind of ways we can fix the class, by the way, for people curious. And to make the build better than what we currently have. We've got a stun now, which we don't normally have, which will really help Magicka Warden. Because you don't have a stun. You still lack an execute. There's no execute with this system currently. The execute scale and dot thing they did doesn't work. It's not good enough. The other heal we could do is using the Torchbearer and go with healing. And then we could use Gladiator Tenacity, so it's a 30% damage reduction while we use this. And then Minor Vitality, some more healing done. Or Minor Heroism. The Heroism or Vitality are both nice. I'm just thinking, this is... Let me just put on my damage buff quickly. And just check what Vigor is. Vigor is 20,000 over 5 seconds. And how much does Vigor cost? Vigor costs 2.8k. This is 6, 7, 3, 9. So this is a lot more expensive. This is, that is a lot more stamp. We could, that's not good. That's bad, that one. So we could use this as our heal instead. So let me just put this on. Would this work? Healing Torch, 6, 7. So you get 3 of that. So 6, 12, 18, 7, 14, 21. So 21, you look at about 21,000 roughly. Tooltip. That's what this is essentially worth in 2 seconds. Now, 21,000 healing in 2 seconds per first 5 seconds. This would obviously be more bursty heal-wise. Go 1, 2, 3. And we get that damage reduction. I think this will be a better heal than Vigor. Because we can put Minor Resolve on this. I think we could. Let me have a look. Yeah, Resolve. 20 seconds Resolve. So it's an AOE Vigor, basically. That's what this is. So, Minor Resolve. So it is a little bit more expensive stand-wise. But we can put this on allies. And when we cast it, yes, we can't roll dodge with it because it's a channel, but you got a 30% damage reduction, which is massive. This is like Undeath, but at all times as soon as you cast this. So this with Undeath is ridiculously tanky. Let's jump into IEC and then I'll switch characters because I don't think, in all honesty, unless you guys can think of any other permutation, I can't see how else we could add anything good to this. We are using Sword and Shield though. Let me have a look at Sword and Shield quick. Shield throw. I thought there was a heal with it, but oh no, there's not. This is the stun. The shield throw. That won't help. That won't help. That won't help. That won't help. Yeah, okay, that wouldn't help us at all. We could go Restoration Staff. This is quite good. Maybe use this as the heal instead. So for the Bat Bowl, we are using Rallying Cry. And it's a Defending Sword and Shield. So we'd obviously lose some imp and we'd also lose a bit of resistance, about 1,000. But we could then have a better heal. This is 1,000 health every second. This is a 23,000 hot. Tether yourself to an ally, but you do need somebody with you. So this wouldn't help in 1vx. This would help in duos. This would be very good in a duo. Because it's 12 seconds. So this is 12,000 heal here, plus a 23,000 hot. So this would be a very good heal over time. Yeah, I don't think this would help with what we are wanting to do. Smash. That has a heal with it. A stamina, that's expensive, that is. And the bow has a heal. It's a good get away button. It's like Streak, but that's really expensive for a heal. Just seeing if there's anything good. Yeah, no, I don't think that was going to work. Soul Burst, what's the heal on that? For context, our Polar Wind is 9k. With a full build, it'll be around 10 to 12k with a massive hot. Soul Burst is 9k. That's really expensive though. That's not useful. Okay, yeah, I think for the Magicka Warden, the skills I would actually use are these. This is what I'd probably use next patch. If you're going to go with the Master's Ice Staff, you obviously will then run Destructive Reach, and you'll use Dazing Soul. So this is the Willed Soul with Stun, Restore Resource, and Major Defile. So this will help you get kills because people can't heal as much. It will also stun them, which will really help you. You then have the Ice Dot Spammable of Ice Reach with the Master Staff. So this would go up to like 10k with a big dot, Deep Fissure, and your bees as well. So that'd be quite good. You don't use Vulnerability because that comes from Fetcher. But you could use like Inner Light for just passive damage boost, or Camo Hunter, but you obviously got Bird of Prey, so you could change that morph to Deceptive Predator. Back bar, I would probably use Living Trellis, Polar Wind, and then I'd either go with this, Healing Torch, or Vigor. I think this is what I'd use on Magicka Warden. I think this is the best setup that we could run. I'm just going to take a picture of that skill so we know. So we would run essentially on a normal build a stun and a burst heal, like a pseudo burst heal, which is AOE. So this is quite a good heal. This is your burst heal, but this is an AOE heal as well, which will hit loads of people. It's your armor buff. It's Vigor. This is like an AOE Vigor basically. So this is good. If you wanted to go for more of an AOE build, the other option you could do, just to summarise, is in the Mage Guild, use the Chilling Contingency. So when we put on our damage buff, it is 7.5k with a 2000 boost, so it's 9,500. So if you compare that to a spammable, for example, Sigik has a good example of this. $9,200. So this obviously will hit harder. So this is 9,591. This is 9,200. So the Chilling Contingency would be a better AoE skill, and it's 2,800 mag. This is 2,200. It's not much more. You just basically spam cast this. The other advantage of using this is it does give you access to the Magicka passives. So you'll get the extra sustain and max Magicka here. You'll get Empower in PvE, that's pointless. And it will increase the duration of the buff. So it's 22 seconds rather than 20. If we use bees, I would probably change the buff of this though. This is why we're checking stuff, because we got vulnerability already. We don't have minor force, so we could have minor force for us and our allies. Or I'd probably go with the sustain, because getting minor intellect and endurance is really hard. Yeah, I'd go with this, I think. Because it'll give you and your people around us just loads of sustain. Force. Let's go with force. If we're going for damage, this would be like the damage skill. And then that way we've got minor force in the build now, which we wouldn't normally have. Yeah, so I think that's what I'll do for Magicka Warden. I'll take a picture of this as well. All of these, by the way, these like tooltips and stuff, these can be found in my Discord. So if you've got questions, you can jump into the Discord and see them here. The last thing I want to show with that, just because it's important to see before we switch character, is I want to show the radius of Chilling Contingency. It's bigger than you think, actually. And if you get any questions with what we're testing, by the way, we're just curious about, could you try this or that, just let me know in the chat. So the radius, I'll put this on here, you can't hit it there. So that's the radius there, okay? For curious, the way I measured it is I used the Sigik order and I went with time swap. This has an 8 meter radius. So if I cast this directly where I am, did you see that line intersects where the target dummy is? So that chilling contingency is this big. So the radius of it is this around you. So it's a pretty big radius. So we can obviously be doing all this around the player and still hitting them, even though we're nowhere near them. So I think this is actually a really good spammable, ironically. It's not what it's meant for, but it's actually really good as a spammable. I'm going to switch to Sorcerer now and just show you what the Sorc was, because I did that before I started the stream, and I found a few things that I like on Sorc. So this was the Sorcerer, and this is running what is pretty much the meta build. So for example, we're using Mighty Tudor, we're using Wretched Vitality, Crafty Alfiq. You know, that's kind of the very balanced. There's different permutations with the Asylum staff, for example, that I like. When I went through the Sorc kit, I was looking at what could we do to add to the kit to make it better. We've got a movement skill, we've got a burst steel stroke shield, we've got a burst skill, we've got a delayed burst skill, we've got a sustain skill, we've got a damage buff that's good and it heals us. We've got a passive boost, we have a debuff. So that major breach we might be able to free, possibly. We have a spammable here. This is just me testing different things. So what I came up with was in the Willed Soul. The Willed Soul for Sorcerer is actually really freaking good as a spammable. So let me put my damage buff. So Willed Soul. If we went with this, for example, it's a 9,100 initial hit plus a 2,200 AOE explosion on the target. So that's 11,300 roughly. And 11,400 with Major Defile. We could put on Major Resolve, which I know you're going to be like, Dan, this is stupid. No, I would normally say yes. Like, Dan, you're being stupid. But hear me out. This skill now gives us Major Resolve. It's our spammable, so we're going to cast this all the time anyway. So this will be up almost all of the fight. Yeah? If we did this version of this, we've got a really good spammable. When I say really good, we compared it to Elemental Weapon. So this is 11,400 almost. Elemental Weapon in the Sigic order is 9,800. So this Soul Magic version will hit harder than Elemental Weapon. It is the hardest spammable for Sorcerer. This is the best spammable for Sorcerer. Like next patch, there's nothing better than this. It's also 2,291 Magicka, so it's really cheap. Sigic is 1,900, so it's not much less, and you do get resources back if you do miss. But the Willed Soul, very, very good. The only downside is, and it's just worth mentioning, is if you use False Pulse, you can proc Burn and Shield Concussed. So you do lose that status effect, which is why the susceptibility is probably worth using for this. This will give you 369, and then you got 400, so 9,400. So again, this is still significantly higher because of this 2k shock damage. It will have the passive, so you do get some pen, 3,000 pen. So 3,000 pen is 660 armor is 1%. So you're looking at about 5% boost. So 5% on 9,000 is not a lot. It's still not going to be as much as this, basically, is the point. This is just status for dots. This is always on anyway. This doesn't really make that much difference. So with the skill, why would we use Major Resolve? Major Resolve means that we can drop our monster set. So normally you'd use Mighty Tudor. So if I chuck it on here, we use Mighty Tudor. It gives us a bit more health, which is nice on the 2 base. But you use it for this armor buff. If we can put this armor buff on our spammable, well, we don't need to run Mighty Tudor anymore. We can run something else, which gives us so many more options. So as a Sorcerer, for example, If we look at the monster sets, you could run Balorg if you used Meteor, that would work really well. You could use Bloodspawn for more ult gen if you use Overload, and it gives you more armor, so this will make you tankier than Tudun. You could run Engine Guardian to just be toxic. This is really annoying to fight against. You could then also use a more of a defensive one, so something like the, where is it? The one where you CC break. I forget his name now, but there's one where you CC break it stuns people. You could also use something like Infernal Guardian. This is really good on Sulk, ironically, because you're using shields all the time. It's just free damage when you use shields, so it's quite defensive. You could use Jarol's, because as a sorcerer, you don't actually have much shielding. Your defense and your heals come from your shield. So I would probably run this, in all honesty. Xbox Gamer says, how did they add... how does it make sense that they add many seconds for scribing skills at Major Defile, but they don't want to add 10 seconds for Disease Blast Bones? The reason why is Blast Bones is AoE. So Blast Bones is AoE, so you can hit multiple people. So they have to balance the duration based on that. So if you look at something like Soul Burst, which is the AoE Wield Soul, all of these are minor courage, so they're minor buffs. So they're not going to be massive. And again, down here, you got Mangle. This is minor Mangle. So the only things that have the major buffs is Wield Soul, pretty much. But it's single target, and that's the balance of it. So because it's single target, you get a slightly longer buff. In my opinion, I really wish they made a Brutality and Sorcery give you 20 seconds. So you could then make this as a support skill rather than a... you could have your heal, for example, or damage shield, and then your damage buff. But I kind of get what you're saying. For me personally, what I would probably do then with this is I would use Major Resolve, and I'd drop the monster set. That's one way you could use the skill really well. And then as we were saying, Dural's is very, very toxic. The others aren't that great. You could go with something like Magma Incarnate, because it will give you minor courage and minor resolve. Now we get minor resolve anyway, but it's the minor courage you'll get, so this is just another damage boost. Xbox is saying, I want to know, can I make 5 new disease abilities? Same goes for bleed and ice, thank you. When you think of disease abilities, if it's like the status effect, they don't stack. So minor disease is still minor disease. You can't have 3 minor diseases on the same person. As with the damage disease type, there's not many skills that have disease, in all honesty, is the truth of this. You have, is it Trample? Trample has disease. So this is where you summon your horse. It's an AoE. It's 1.5 seconds though. It's a bit awkward to use. And I think, was it one of these ones up here? Was it the 2H? No. Was it the bow? Bow. It's the bow. So the bow has disease too. As for bleed, the Jeweled has bleed. The 2H has bleed. And I know the Fighters Guild has bleed. The Torchbearer has bleed. The rest don't. I think they should add more damage types personally for every skill. For the ice skills, you have Ulfrid's Contingency, frost damage here. Or you have Elemental Explosion, frost damage. Really big tooltip, but 2-second cast. So it's not that good actually. It's better on paper than it actually is in reality. So yeah, with the Sorcerer, Shock and Soul, Major Resolve, literally free up your monster set. If we wanted, we could go for our Shock Damage, Class Mastery, and just for a heads up, this Class Mastery, 2000 damage, this Cruelty is 450 Oblivion damage to a 30,000 health target. If they're at 0%, it's 900 damage. This will still be more damage, even if they're at max health or they're low health. So this is better on Sorcerer. This is better than this. So don't use this Cruelty. Use Mastery and Sorcerer. It's way better. We could then use Breach instead. Major Breach. So if we had this as our skill instead, what we could then do is we could drop elemental susceptibility. We do lose burn and shield and concuss damaged, which isn't, it's not a lot of damage in all honesty. But what you could do then is to run a different skill. So for example, you might want to go down to the Mages Guild and run something like Structured Entropy. You get a heal over time. So you've got a dot and a heal over time. This will be more damage than the status effects. So if you did this, you'd have more damage than the status effects plus a heal over time as well, which is nice. And because it's a Major Guild skill, you'll get access to the Max Magicka and Magic Recovery as well. Xbox says it's a bit disappointed that they don't have it on all skills yet. I agree. I did put a post on the forums. My solution was simple. You click on like the skill and it just says damage. And when you click on damage, and it opens up all the damage options as like a list. So all you see is damage, healing, or like, and just have utility ones below. If you click on damage, it then pulls up all the damage types as a separate list. That's what I would do. But they'll need to do all the animations, balancing. It is a missed opportunity personally, but it's still decent enough. For Sorcerer though, I can't think of anything else you would add. There's nothing else that you'd want to get rid of. The kit's really good. They have a really good kit. So the options is to use this as your spammable. This is the best spammable for Sorcerer next patch. And then you either breach and then you free up a bar space, so you don't have to run susceptibility anymore. You could run a dot that heals you. You could just run a passive damage boost. So something like Camo Hunter. So if you move your skills around a little bit, you might be able to get Camo Hunter in there. You could go with something like Meditate, which ironically, when you go around, you can get more sustain. It's not needed, but or an AOE skills. You got a bit more choices, kind of the options. Vigor's even quite nice. Just it's another heal over time. And you can obviously go for Echoing to heal allies as well. So it's got a massive radius. So on your battle bar, this is a 17k heal. We can heal allies too with this. So we actually can heal allies now that you can't normally on a Sorc. So there's not a lot of healing, but it's free healing. Something you wouldn't normally have. So this could be quite a good Sorc setup next patch. For the Shock and Soul, I just want to show you how this works because it looks a little bit weird, but it is actually pretty cool. What class you want to see next? So I've done Sorc and Warden. I can't think of anything else you'd use for Sorcerer in all honesty. Out of all the options, unless you go for real edge niche things, like a Meteor gank build or something, you're not going to have any real success with it. But if you have a class that you want to see, like, oh, could we try a Necromancer next? Or could we try a Templar or a Dragonknight? Put a comment in the chat and I'd obviously pick one of those. With the Wheeled Soul, yeah? The Shock and Soul. So it's 9.4k plus 2,300. So 11,700 tooltip. Best spammable. When you cast it, what you get, it shoots like a lightning ball in the air. So I don't know if you see it. It's really fast. And that secondary damage, it applies instantly. So you can't dodge the explosion. So this will be a really good spammable for Sorc. You're at UB, I think it's pronounced. I might have really butchered that. Discovered the channel when you looked at one bar. What class would you say has the best one bar DPS? It's new to PvP and not good at rotations. If you are after a one bar build for PvP, do you have essentially three really good options? Nightblade is basically gank, so you try to kill people before they kill you. If you can get the combo quick, you can kill people really fast, and it's like a 3-4 skill combo to kill somebody. and that will kill people up to like 30,000 health. I've shown it on stream loads. A Sorcerer is really good for Battlegrounds. That's where it shines. In Cyrodiil, 1-bar Sorcerer is not as good. You need more skills, in all honesty. Same for Imperial City. You then have Templar. A 1-bar Templar is decent in Battlegrounds, but they have the same issue as Sorcerer. You don't have enough skills to move around. And then a 1-bar Dragonknight is actually pretty good. A 1-bar Dragonknight works well because you've got access to really good ultimates and really good skills. This is also true for Magicka Warden. So a 1-bar Warden is also quite good. So for me, out of the choices, Nightblade is like S tier. It's really good. Warden's also probably A+ tier. It's really good. I'd then say Dragonknight is probably A tier because the Oaken Soul gives them more ult gen, that gives them more sustain with the passives. You get the Corrosive, or you got to take Flight, both are really good. Or the other Leap, Ferocious Leap, really good ults. So I'd go with one of those three personally. As with the Sulk, this is like the best skill for that, I think. There isn't anything else we can add with Scribing. So that's what we're going to be doing there. And cheers for the sub, by the way. I'm going to switch now and we'll pick a different character. So what I'm going to do is put a very quick poll up. And I'm going to grab a quick drink. So it'll just be like 2-3 minutes at most. So we've done Sulk, we've done Warden. So we could do Nightblade. We could do Templar. We could do Arcanist. Or we could do Dragonknight. I would add Templar, but I can't add that option. There's only so many options you can pick. So I'm just going to grab a very quick drink. And I'll be back in probably a minute or two. So yeah, have a quick look on there, which class you want to make next, and we'll pick one. Hello. Okay, I'm back. So just moving the chair. My chair's a bit squeaky. UB, I think it's pronounced. I might have really butchered that. Sorry. No worries. I've said I help people out. If you are interested, I do have a Patreon. That's like the best place. I am looking into YouTube memberships as well, so that would be another option. But that's going to be probably coming in a couple of weeks. But there's details there. I'm going to give the poll probably 20 seconds or so. We have Templar, Nightblade. Nightblade's obviously the top. Necromancer because they're weak. And then let's go and pick a character. So for a Dragonknight, we are pretty tanky, but you normally go with Dark Elf because you want a hybrid race because you have to pull from Magicka and Stamina. Nightblade, you're a vampire, so you want Dark Elf. And Templar, you're a melee, so again, you're going to be a vampire, so again, you want Dark Elf because you pull from both resources often. So yeah, I'm going to end the poll there, and then we're going to go with Nightblade because that's what was the most popular. So Scribing, Nightblade. And then what we'll do, we'll make a quick Nightblade build, just a rough kind of what I would actually use for next patch. And then we will see, can we add in any skills to make it better? That's kind of the plan. The only one I think that And just curious, I'll put a poll for this as well. Do you guys like this kind of stuff where when I'm testing stuff, I do it on stream? Because often I normally just test stuff off stream. So I kind of go, this is what I'm doing. And then people just see it off stream. The UB says I've got some really nice Nightblade and Warden. How about a Dragonknight? I do have a 1-bar Dragonknight. It's on the channel already. Let me link it. Give me a sec. The 1-bar Dragonknight I still use. It uses Oakensoul and Daedric Trickery, if I recall. I was trying to find where it is. Bear with me one sec. I'm just pulling up a video really quick. So then this one, which has a very quick example of it. This is the video. Here you go. So this is the DK. And then if you want to see it, there's a gameplay where it shows you the sets again, but also in Battleground, sorry, where I show you kind of what I'm doing and playing. It is a little... It's last patch of the patch before, but the sets are still fine for this patch with how it works. Lord Rob says, on stream testing is excellent. Learn so much. For the Nightblade, what you typically run is Cloak, because the defense skills are just needed. You normally go with a bit of health, so we go with like sort of 16 to 32 health. And we go 32 health, probably 16 of each. We might tweak this in a minute. Just got to let the cat out because he's decided to start scratching the chair. Yep, I'm back. UB said he's at work. He's got a yeah, being at work sucks. Still in UK, so he's finished work already. Other creators though, Malcolm's quite good. He's definitely worth looking at. Malcolm ESO, he's pretty solid. There's some that I would avoid, in all honesty, because some of their sets just make no sense. So kind of be careful with what you look at. If you see people use the same sets often, that's a good sign. If they use really random sets like Serpent's Disdain, you get nobody else is using this set, why? There's probably a reason for it. It's kind of what I'd say. So just be mindful of some of the sets and kind of what people do. So for the Nightblade, one of the issues it has is the burster isn't particularly great. So ability bar, attributes on. So I like to be able to see this like OCD as such. I like to be able to see my stuff. Where's my skill bar? There you go. So Nightblade. I just wonder if you can make a ranged Magblade. That's what I'm wondering. Because you could use something like I forget the set now. It's not Innate Axiom, but it's a bit like that. Soul Shine, I think it's called. It's the one that increases your magic damage. Like increase your magic damage by 600. It's really good, but there's not many magic damage skills. Whereas this might actually fix that. Let me quickly Google it. It's going to bug me. If you guys know the name of the set, it's the 5-piece that when you use it increases your magic damage by X amount. So I'm just having a quick search. When I see the name, I'm like, oh, that's it. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. I'm just thinking how we could use that. It's not Elfbane. I'm going through these sets now quickly and having a quick look. So it's not innate Axia, but it's a bit like that. So don't become with a W. I can't think of the set's name. It's gonna bug me. I'm just checking the sets for people curious. It is a very old set. Oh, War Maiden. I just remember what it's called now. It's a PvP set. So, I'm just wondering whether we could make a Magicka Nightblade work better than it currently does. Because a Magicka Nightblade doesn't have a good spammable. That's the problem. Let's have a look at the class script, what the Nightblade has, because that will be a really good quick indicator of whether we can make a Magicka Nightblade work. So I'm just popping to the Scalarium. I will just have to reload UI because of a bug. There's a bug that hides a skill. So, looking here, so what's the class one do again? Restore 3/3/3 magic and stamina if your target was above 50% health or crit chances down below. Okay, that's pointless. That's not helpful at all. Okay, so that's not going to be an option. But we have the magic one here. So we could use that. I guess. Probably just make it cheaper to use, to be honest. I'm just going to compare this to, because the tooltip should be like equitable to Swallow Soul. So Swallow Soul has a higher base damage, and that's still not high enough. Okay, so I don't think a Magicka Nightblade would work ranged from this, like just looking at the skills that we have access to. Hey, Sage says he's at work, just saying hi. Hey! Magic damage. So I'm just having a look to see what we could we add a Magicka Nightblade. And I don't think this would scale nicely. Like, this is dirt cheap. That does heal us, but this has breach. Oh, we could put breach. That might fix it actually. Because we could go with breach. No, we'll probably use defile. Let me just look at the skills quick that I might run. I'd run obviously Grim Focus. And again, this should be magic damage. Yeah, this is magic damage. So War Maiden would buff this as well, which is nice. I would use an Ice Staff on the back bar. I would use Shadowy Disguise, and I'd probably go for Shade. So Shadow Image. So I'm just having a little look to see, could we make a Magic Nightblade work with this new system? Can it fix some of the issues Magic Nightblade has? Yotes me, I think it's pronounced, says, "Hi man, how you doing?" Yeah, I'm alright. I'm just looking at how I can make stuff work that we can't do. So like Magic Nightblade really has issues, and I think this might help fix some of them. Because the Defier would help keep that sustained damage that we lack on Nightblade. We would probably run Cripple. Orc Arcanist. Yeah, the Arcanist is pretty decent with this. Magic damage. So increase the snare potency and quadruples the chance to apply the overcharge status. Overcharged is... That's Magicka still, that is. So I don't think that's going to be that helpful. It's good for sustain. But the immobilize is probably better. So convert some damage to immobilize the enemy and reduces the cost. So we've got snare, a snare. Okay, well that's a 50% snare though. We could probably go with that. And you'd have to use Mage Guild Degen for your damage buff. It's our damage buff. We would then need to add a burst skill. This skill we will drop in a moment. I'm just thinking of what we can do for a ranged Magic Nightblade. That's what I'm considering. We don't have a stun. We're going to do what we did with Magicka Warden, I think. This is going to have to be our stun. That's going to be our stun, because we don't have a stun on a Nightblade. Just looking at the kit, the stun is not ranged. So we've now got a ranged stun, and we've got a ranged snare. A ranged immobilize and snare. So this is really good control. That will be our spammable then. Because this heals us. Because when you play, if you play Magicka Nightblade, you will notice that it's really hard to kill people because you can't stun them. And being able to stun them into spec bow at range would be really, really nice. So we'll just look for the stun. I would probably use Meteor and get the ult back. And in all honesty, what I'd probably do to save money, you're gonna laugh at this. If you go for Death Sight and go for Soul Harvest, when you kill people, you get ult back, or enemies. So you can put this in the front bar. So you cast Meteor, then switch to your front bar. And then if they die, you get 10 ult there, plus the ult from Meteor. So you'll get a lot of the ult back. For ease of use though, we'll probably put this front bar and then put Soul Tether back bar. Looking at what we need we've got a shadow. We'd probably need to race against time. We have no heals on this at the moment. So race against time. Mobility snare removal. We need a burst still. That's what we actually need. A healthy offering Trude is 810,000. It's only 200, it's not a huge amount. Now the siphon is very good for sustain. Healing done. All damage you deal heals you for. Got 1 second. Does it apply to dots leeching? I'm just curious. I've not actually tested this. I'm having a look at what we could do for a Magblade. I'm going to jump to my house quickly. And then we're just checking could we make a Magicka Nightblade work? Because I don't think a normal Nightblade would benefit massively from this system, in all honesty. Just looking at what's there. The only thing that they would probably use is the heal. Everything else in their kit was functional for melee. Really good for melee. And they're too mobile, so you wouldn't use the fighter skilled heal. They're too mobile. So this applies to dots. Okay, it does apply to dots. Okay, so that's actually really useful. That's actually pretty good. Okay. I really want to bring back the old Magicka Nightblade. That's what I'm really looking at right now. So I'm trying to get the skills right before we look at the sets. Because the sets, we can obviously push them really high. And we're going to probably look at War Maiden. Because we use loads of magic damage. So War Maiden is the set that increases your magic damage by 600. So your magic spells get a 600 damage boost. And that gets buffed by major and minor sorcery. It's a huge amount of bonus damage to tooltips. So we have some ideas. Spammable, heal over time, plus heal over time, plus heal over time. So you've got good hot healing with this. We've got crowd control here. And then resolve burst here. Cloak to move around. So that's a mobility skill, basic cloak. And so is shadow image. Now you'd probably you would honestly probably go race against time here. The shade is very good. It's like you'd pick one or the other. Okay, I think that's the skill sorted. Is there anything else that we could substitute or that'll make better here? We're using this for our stun. The healing isn't too big on this. This could be a heal, but it's going to be quite awkward to use and it pulls you out of stealth. So that wouldn't work. These wouldn't work. Okay, I think that's what honestly all we would use on a Magblade. Just looking at the skills, I think this is what I'd use on a Magicka Nightblade. Let's put some sets on quick and see how this would look. And with these things, it's kind of like just trying different things to find out what I think would work. We'll need these. Magic, and then 3 sustain, so we can change the sustain. I'm probably going to do a front bar, back bar push on this. So we're probably going to go War Maiden front bar. Is that a... That is War Maiden. Is it a Battleground set? Or is it Morrowind? It is a Overland Morrowind. Okay. So I'm just having a look at kind of how we can make a Magicka Nightblade work. So we need Overland sets, light Overland, and it's called War Maiden. So 600 weapon and spell damage to your magic damage abilities. This is huge. It is a huge amount of damage. We would probably use a lightning staff, 2 jewelry pieces, and a waist. Lightning staff, and we need a waist. So let's just chuck those on quickly. The reason I'm front barring this, by the way, is because this doesn't buff healing. So on the front bar, you'll see this is 11. This is 7,000 almost. And obviously, when we put on the other sets, it'll go much higher. I find on Nightblade, you can run into stam sustain issues. So our tooltip is 3000. Let me just get a potion for a damage buff. Consumables, potions. So I would be looking for. That will do. It's our damage buff. 7.5. 3,600 spell damage plus 600, 720, so 4,400 roughly is what we have here so far. What's our sustain like? 1,500. 1,500. We would probably go Rallying Cry back bar, or that makes me light armor. I'm just thinking about how we can make this work. I need a set that I can put on the back bar. So this is either Rallying Cry, Wretched Vitality. They're like the best two. Clever Alk is kind of hit and miss. Very good for some builds. Very hit and miss for others. I'll probably use Death Dealer's Feet. It's the most versatile, mythic. So let's check that on now. That Deadlands, I think it is. Oh no. Blackwood. Blackwood. The other one was Gazer Sithis. The Armored Nightblade does lack. But we have high health pool, so that would obviously fix that. Yeah, I think we're going to go with Wretched, because we can just go infused spell damage. Bloodthirsty. So armor, crafted sets, DLC, Deadlands, Wretched Vitality. We'd want a eye staff back bar and then body pieces medium. Legs, that's there. The eye staff is for the defending. With it being an eye staff, you get slightly more resources. There's our 3. We switch to the back bar, that will proc our regen. Do we have a skill? Brace Against Time will proc both, because that's minor, major. So that'll proc our set, that's nice and easy, that's good. That's just passive sustain healing. So whilst at either bar, all damage you deal heals you and reduces the cost of your next Legion strike. So this is a really good sustain skill too. After 10 strikes, this is free to cast. This is really good. Burst heal, mending. Okay, let's put these onto Magical Harm. Bloodthirsty is more damage, by the way. But what happens is it doesn't buff your healing. Now for a Nightblade, a lot of our healing comes from our damage done, ironically. What we're testing, if people have just joined by the way, is to add Scribing to a Magicka Nightblade to try and make it more viable. There we go. Obviously that will drop loads when we move our divines. We'd probably go with lots of well fitted, in all honesty. And we have a monster set free. So So let's just change those to infused. Now, Bloodthirsty will give you more damage, but it's not a massive amount. Alright, what's our sustain like? 1100. Okay, 1600 there. 1600 again. We'll probably want some sustain food, in all honesty. And we haven't got a potion on, by the way. So we probably want citrus fillet, or witch mothers, or jaws of misrule. So let's try a bear hunch, because you need to roll loads on a Nightblade. So this will give us 28k health, which is a good amount of health. Sustain wise, 2000 magic recovery. Okay, so that damage is much better. Our max health would obviously increase as we get higher into combat. We do have War Maiden on this, so again that's not going to show just yet. Let's just put the CP in quickly then. And we would be a vampire stage 3. So again, that will give us more resistances. So I don't think we have minor resolve. So we need to look at how we can get that into the build, because we need that resistance. So I'd probably use these two. Ironclad, and then the mending one. Okay, so that's the blue ones. The red ones we will probably go with a celerity, because we have to move around an awful lot. Pain's Refuge, sustained by suffering. So again, that's just more sustain. That's nice. That's just damage mitigation when we're being debuffed by loads of stuff. And that makes roll, dodge, sprint, break free cheaper. Okay, so that's what we're looking like stat-wise. Let me... Just going to change the staff. So that'll be defending. So I'm just having a look at what we can do to make a Magicka Nightblade. That's actually going to be viable next patch. Sharpened. What's our pen? Our pen is 12k plus 6,000. So I'm just going to reload UI just to check there's no like funky bug going on, because that seems really high. Once we've done this class, what class do you want to see next, by the way? So I think we've got a good feel of how Nightblade could work with scribing. I probably have time for one more, maybe two more. I'm going to put a quick poll up. So it'd be Templar, DK, Necro, or Arcanist. So this will stack. That'll give us 300 damage there. Big spec bow. That's our damage buff, which we can get. So there's 20,000 spec bow. That's a huge spec bow, and we've got a stun with Dazing Soul. Yeah, what I want to do is just check then. When you're at range, do you go spec bow, Dazing Soul? Nah. They have like similar travel time. You'd have to do it like that. So Dazing Soul, spec bow, and hope they don't CC break. Okay. 1900 stam sustain. Mag sustain, sorry. So our armor would be a bit low. We have no assassination. We need a dark veil. Was it shadow at this one? What one is it? It's one of these. This is it. Casting a shadow ability grants barrier. So it doesn't last long enough. So 19k there, 21k. We need minor resolve. Let's go put some more armor on. Can we get minor resolve from the scribing system? I feel like the build is in a pretty where the sets and stats need to be, because the tool dips are pretty decent. Looking at the poll, it's split between DK and Arcanist currently. And I think what's quite useful with doing this, by the way, is you know what will be good for your PvP. So like when you go to make a class and an alt in particular, you know, I just need to get these 5 things. The rest of them are pretty bad, for example. We need resolve. So we're using Wield Soul, which has our stun. That could give us minor resolve. It's only 10. That's not good enough. Because it's major, this could help keep the armor buff up longer, but you're going to be cloaking a lot. Okay, what other skills would we... Alright, what if we did this? We change that to breach. So we'd have stun, cheap stun basically, and it's debuff for breach. That then frees up a back bar skill. So the instant one is obviously Vigor. That's just very good. Vigor is a 18,700 tooltip. Minor resolve. Now this I think gives us minor resolve, doesn't it? That wouldn't help. Healing contingency. It's a pseudo burst heal with a hot. But you have to cast it twice. Don't think that would be too helpful. That wouldn't be helpful. We're already using that skill, so we can't change that. We've got sword and ice staff back bar. There's nothing there that would help us there. Trample's too... It won't help in 1vx trample. It's too slow. So we're really stuck between Soul Burst or Contingency. Soul Burst, this does have resolve, and it is minor resolve, 20 seconds. This is damage shield, that's half, that's gutted in PvP, that is. Heal. I just want to check something. I know this sounds a bit daft, yeah. Is that a buff on you? I'm assuming it's like a single use buff. The increase of critical chance per turn if your target was below 50% health. Yeah, that's not going to help us, that script. So let's put on the burst hill again. So we've got control and movement here. That's our debuff, armor debuff, so it's major breach. Yeah, I don't think there's much else we'd actually slot. Just thinking about it. Because that tooltip and vigor is way too high. So 18.7. What would this be? No, that's torment. 5.8 and that. So that's what, 13,800 instant. So 13,800 effective tooltip. So it's 5,000 less. But it's Magicka. That's very expensive. That is 4,000. That's really expensive. We have an awful lot of magic skills. We do. It's probably might need an extra magical recovery here. If we did three bloodthirsty and magic, we'll probably get more damage and similar damage, but similar sustain. Let's prismatic our bits. I think this is the best we'll get this Nightblade, in all honesty. I can't think of what else we could add, unless you guys think of something to change. Yeah, so that's a good amount of 30k health almost. That would obviously go up to about 34,000 with Death Dealers. That spell damage is 3,800. Okay, so front by 3,800, but we also have War Maiden. That we get that 600, and that also gets buffed by 20%. So that's like an extra. It's like it goes 120. But with like all the stuff in mind, it's probably about an extra 200 in total. So it's like 800 that's needed to be added to the stat page. So we're on about 4,600 spell damage roughly. That's like the effective spell damage. Our resistances would be... Hey, you're right, Sprout. 25... We need to be a vampire. Let's chuck that on quick. Yeah, what I'm doing is looking at making a Magicka Nightblade that will actually be somewhat viable, because currently they're not. The damage is too clunky. Sprout says, I want to say Nightblade. I'm on Nightblade now. That's why. That's why it's not on the list, okay? So let's jump to the guild. I don't think there's anything else we could add from scribing. What we have got, though, is we've got a stun, which I know doesn't seem like a lot, but this is a big deal. Having a stun and this major breach. Nightblade is not about sustained damage, it's burst. And you often have to get your resolve into a shooting star. So like casting shooting star, then Daze Insult, and then bow. You could do this at range and hit somebody really hard and stun them. So I think that would be quite good. We'd obviously have a bit of dot damage from degen plus cripple, which would just proc our Siphon and Strikes nicely. And you got that spam wall damage from there. Again, that's 8.5. When we're fully buffed with the resolve up, it's like 9k, 9.5. I'm gonna go to the guild house and just double check these tooltips. Sprout says, are there any Necromancer pet builds? The Necromancer, it's not really like a pet class, if that makes sense. It's like it's a bit like Warden. They're kind of like temporary. They don't They kind of come, do the job and go away again. And so that's like the issue you're going to have. So let's just charge our bow up, because that actually gives us damage as well. So we've got 4,200 spell damage plus about 800, just about 5,000 spell damage. That's pretty decent. Let me just go feed quickly. I built in extra sustain on this build, by the way, so that we can move around a bit easier. We also have a good health pool, so that health pool will give us more benefit from undeath. And because we sit almost at 30,000 instantly, we don't have to worry about being ganked massively, because we have a good health pool to start with, and it goes up higher. So let's just put on our sustain quickly. So sustain wise, we have 2,300 mag recovery, and then with a potion, 3,000. So we've got really good mag sustain on this. Our defense is 26 spell almost and 25 physical with undeath. So yeah. So 4,600, then 8,900 on top, so 5,400 roughly. The reason I'm adding that value is you get this 600 on top, and this will buff your base, which then gets the major sorcery buff on top again. So it means that actually our tooltips will be a lot higher than they might appear. So 9k, 9,400, 9,000 tears. We've got almost a 10k tooltip. What's our spec bow tooltip? I think this is how we'd make Magicka Nightblade work. We've got really high mag sustain just to pay for all the Magicka skills we use. The spec bow has a 21,000 tooltip. Yeah, so that would work well. But let's put on our sustain buff now. So 3k sustain, this is 3k. So our sustain will be pretty decent. Alright. Summarising this build then, I'm just going to put on the death dealer so you can see the full stats. I think death dealer is that max, yeah. So we have 33.5k health, almost 26k Magicka and 23k stam. The regen is nice and high with a potion, 2,900 mag recovery, 1,800 stam. For our resistances, back bar we have 25.5, 25k physical, and then undeath. The crit resist you can put on in pen. You then have 15k pen, you got the pen on the front bar, 18k pen because of that, and then you got the Nightblade passive, 18k pen plus another 3,000. So we'd have about 21,000 pen. And then obviously this is a heal over time. chuck those loads of people. So yeah, I think this is what I'd use. For this Magicka Nightblade, I would run the following. I would use War Maiden, Death Dealers, Wretch Vitality, and our monster set is free currently. So we can run a monster that would actually help us. We need more resistances, is the big thing. So we have a few choices of what we could run. Let's get some monster sets out. And we'll go through and see what will give us the best defense. This is just fun for like heavy attack shenanigans. This is not that helpful. Balrog's nice. Bloodspawn will be good. Actually, what would be the best is probably Magna Incarnate. That would be the best for this. Because this will give us our minor resolve, which we lack. We got Vigor, which I can give it to us. But that could work really well. What about anything down here? That's just more sustain. Sedatrix is just lol. That's quite funny, that is. Slime Claw is just nice. I'm just having a look at what we could use. Yeah, there isn't much we could use that would help with what we want to do here. Bloodspawn, Balrog, Engine, Calamag's quite nice. This is a good burst, so you could use that even. Yeah, I think out of these, I'll probably go Magma Incarnate. I think that's the most rounded one because it's more damage and it's more defense. We'll go with medium and medium. So we want let's get some prismatic glyphs going. Let's get into prismatic, and then I'll switch from this. If you have any class that you want to see, there is a poll going. If the class is not on there, it's because it's already done. So when you heal yourself, group of single target heal, grant them. Yeah, that's his proc it. No, so that doesn't proc that. Oh, okay, that procs Magma. Is there a cooldown on that? Just look at the cooldown. Is it 15? Yeah. We'll just check whether the Swallow Soul procs it. So that doesn't. Okay, so yeah, so structured entry procs that. Okay, that's good to note. So that'll proc it too. Alright, I think that's what we're going to do. So looking at the Nightblade and what the scribing system can offer, I've had quite a play with it. There isn't much Nightblade can benefit from this system, in all honesty, is my honest take. Now, what you can do for a magic Nightblade is you can have a stun, which I know it sounds really stupid, but that's a really big deal for magic Nightblade because you've got access to immobilize, snare, and a stun at range. These are all 28 meters. So you have the ability to lock somebody down really far away and just keep that pressure on them. If you are a melee Nightblade, what you would do, in all honesty, and I just want to just show you the tooltip difference. This is 11,000 heal with minor mending, but you do lose some health. So you lose 3,000, so it's essentially an 8,000 heal. If you play as a stamina Nightblade and you play melee or melee Magblade, using healing on Willed Soul instead with Sage's Remedy or Druid's Resurgence and then Vitality, this would be a better burst heal than the class one. The only thing is that this is very expensive. So using Druid's Resurgence makes it the same price, but now you get Major Vitality instead of Minor Mending, and you get a bigger heal, and it doesn't cost you any health. So if you play a melee Nightblade, this is the skill you'd add. If you play as a magic Nightblade, you actually want to use it like a stun. So a stun, Druid's Resurgence, and Breach. This will give you the ability to stun people cheaply and get them debuffed with Pen. It frees up a bar slot, which you actually need, which will then allow you to run an extra heal over time and an armor buff, which is going to be very, very helpful. If you're playing as a gank build, Contingency doesn't really work well. You can kind of make it work, and I will do a video on this properly when the patch drops. But this is really awkward to use. So essentially what will happen is if we had, say, flame damage with Warrior's Opportunity and the Vulnerability. Now, the issue you have with this is when we cast the skill, firstly, the debuff is on you, but a roll dodge procs it, so you can't roll around. If you cast it and you sneak, it doesn't use it, which is good, but your net skill will. So if you cloak, you proc it. Now, usually you want to cloak before you do any skill, yeah? Because you get a guaranteed crit. So what will happen is you cast this, you then go into cloak, skill, but that's procced already. So you can kind of get a little bit of extra damage out if you did that. So Contingency, walk up to somebody, cloak, light attack, surprise attack, and you'll be able to hit them with both. But that assumes you can get next to them when you hit cloak. So I don't see how this would work on a Nightblade, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to work. What you could do, but it wouldn't work, I don't think it's worth it. On the Veiled Strike, you've got Concealed Weapon. Now this is 9,100 already, plus a 10% damage boost and its Minor Expedition. When it's buffed, 10,200. Again, that 10% boost when you leave it, and that 15% speed. This is really good. So what what I'm thinking with this here is that that's 10,000. It is a magic skill. You might want to Torchbearer and go for like a bleed, damage reduction, and something like this. Now obviously this is a 2-second channel, so this will be less damage, like less burst, but you could use this if you want to work in a duo, because this AoE can't be dodged. Me personally though, there's no good skills beyond wield soul for Nightblade. So if you are playing a Nightblade, this is like the only good skill. All of these other ones are very niche and very situational. They're not going to do it properly. Obviously, if I'm using a different weapon, I could then use, you know, shield throw and throw a shield and use magic damage. But then I can't light attack weave. So they all have these issues. So I'm going to leave Nightblade there. I think that's kind of a good summary of how this will work with Nightblade. Basically, wield soul is like the best one. You either have it as a burst or melee, or you have it as a stun on ranged. This is a ranged Magblade. This goes almost 10,000 when it's buffed, so this is quite high. We'll log out and I'll probably do one more. The poll though is literally split 3 ways. So it's literally split DK, Necro, Arcanist. If you haven't voted already on the poll to go, oh, which class should we look at next, could you have a look in the poll and then decide? And whilst you do that, I'm just going to quickly grab a drink and nip to the loo. So it'll be a couple minutes. I will leave a little AFK thing in the background. So this is just me on the Nightblade a while back, but you can have a little look at that. And I'll be back in a second. Hey! So, looking at the poll, currently DK's first, Templar's just behind with Arcanist. Just give it a couple of minutes. And then I will make a decision. Oh, for people curious, by the way, that Nightblade, that's a 1-bar Nightblade. I think this video is a couple patches old. But it's using Wretched Vitality and Dead... the set that gives you damage from stealth. Bane or something it's called. I forget its name. The one when you come out of stealth, you get bonus damage. Alright, the poll was looking at DK, so we're going to go DK. So we'll do one last one and then we'll call it here. If I didn't get to do the class tonight, I'll try and do one later in the week. Sib says, I swear the Nightblade execute sounds so satisfying. Oh, it really is. Scribing DK. So DK is usually Dark Elf because of how they play. And we're going to think about what could you actually add to a build. Now, on a Dragonknight, you typically go with something like Bloodspawn, Daedric Trickery, Rallying Cry. That's quite a good staple DK. It gives you a good set of stats. It's got the ult gem, which gives you more ults. The ult is then turned into resources. You then have access to the Rallying Cry, which gives you the defense and the damage. So we're probably going to go with that. We'll build our kit accordingly, okay? I do love Nightblade. It's a very, very fun class to play. Okay, I'm just going to reload your UI because that's going to be really annoying. That's going to do it for ages. And if you get any questions with the stuff we've tested, leave a comment on the video afterwards, or message in Discord. So with the DK, this should be a bit quicker to do. Consumables, armor sets, and I think that's it. We need that one, we need that one, we need that one. We need Bloodspawn. We need a PvP set. We need a crafted set. Crafted sets is a DLC set. I want to say it's Morrowind. I don't think it is, but the Vardenfall. Is it Vardenfall? Hey, it is. Look at that. Still the set of light armor. Rallying Cry. We go with jewelry and waste. Jay the Irish says, do you think the new soul skills can make the Oblivion's foe set viable? The Oblivion foe set, in my opinion, is decent enough as it is. I would use it. Soul Trap, just for, like, if you really quick. Soul Trap's 10,000 dot on this. There's no obviously stats. But 10,000 here. If you compare it to Entropy, 11,000, there's not much difference. And it's only higher because that's 22 seconds. So that's why that would be slightly higher, whereas this was 20. If you compare it to the dot and Destructive Touch, is 7,700. If you compare it to the DK dot, so let's look at the Fiery Breath, 10,000. If you look at the Claw, wherever that's Searing Strike, 12,000. So the Soul Trap dot is very similar in dot damage to other skills. What's nice is that you have Split and Soul Trap. This lets you proc Oblivion foe on lots of people at range. Chuck it on one person, it spreads out and hits loads of people. This is quite good. You could obviously use the Oblivion's foe with the Wield Soul spammable, but I don't think it's worth it in that case. I think if you're going to go down that route, you just use Way of the Fire, it's better. That said, if you're hitting lots of people, then you could just use Split and Trap anyway. So, like, it's more useful than it was, but I don't think it's going to make a big difference. Yes, so Split in Soul Trap will hit every target. So let me find some NPCs. I'll just give you like an idea. So these two here, for example, yeah? If I hit this Argonian on the left, Kisara, it will hit her, and then anybody within 8 meters, so around about this distance, will then be hit with the soul trap because it splits, and then they also get the Oblivion Foe proc. So if I hit this woman here, all 3 of these like NPCs would have it, because she'll get soul trap. It will then spread and hit this person, which then is soul magic, which procs the set again, and it also hits this person and procs it again. So you can proc Oblivion's Foe with splitting soul trap on lots of people really quick, especially in a group. So it's quite good for that. Rallying Cry, we will probably use Ice Staff or Sword and Shield back bar. We want jewelry and neck. Probably go with Marken, I think, on this, because we're in melee quite a lot on a DK. Yeah, since I didn't really know it worked like that, it's kind of neat. It's a pretty cool set. I quite like the set. For me personally, I used to use it on my build called the Infector. So I used to use it with that, and then also Growing Swarm, which also splits the dot. So you hit 2 people with those, and you can dot like 10 people really quick. And you got Oblivion Soul, which is now 3 dots. You then use the Black Rose Destruction Staff, which is an AOE, and that procs that dot on everybody again. You can end up dotting lots of people really fast at range. It's quite good. Quite a little fun way to play it. It's not like the most optimal, but it's fun. Let's chuck some of what we got on now quick. So we've got Rallying Cry here. Rallying Cry here. Ice Staff there. I'll probably go with Skulls to begin with. I might change it though. Trickery, medium armor, heavy armor, and weapons. The weapons, we would need 2 maces, 2 hammers. The medium armor, we would want to have boots and hands. You'd want the legs in heavy armor. Go with 1 trainee on the body piece, chest. So it's an overland set. We would then want to get the mythic item. We'd use Bloodspawn too. Monster masks. Let's go Bloodspawn. Bloodspawn's like really good for a DK, really, really good. I think I would probably use Death Dealers is good, but so is Marken. We'll have a little look, see which we prefer. That's medium. Medium. I'm gonna get the heavy as well, just in case. We might need the resistances. Yeah, so we've got that there. Let's jump into our home quickly. This setup, by the way, if people curious, my mate Nath runs this. Pretty much, I've made a tweak for the mythic item and a few things, but generally this, and it's very, very good. Like really, really good to fight against. You can obviously change trickery if you wanted to something like Wretched Vitality. That's also a good option. But rally back bar, something else front bar. We still got to put our attributes in, which we haven't done yet. We're just going to put our Mondays on, do a few transmutes, get a rough idea of this is the sets, these are the build, then we can put on the skills. Yeah, I hope you find this stuff useful. I enjoy doing this, but I hope this obviously helps you guys out going forward too. So you go like, oh, I could try that. These need to be Nernhand and sharpened or charged. Charged typically. You generally use charge if you get bleed damage in somewhere, or we use glyphs. Then we might be able to get bleed damage that we don't normally have access to, so that could be quite nice. The 3, 5, 7, 4. We just swap those round. Three, 4. So you want 900 on your main hand. 3, 5, yeah. So 900 on the main hand because it gives you more damage than even though, and charge on the offhand. And if you did sharpened offhand, Nernhand main hand, you can change this obviously to be sharpened if you prefer the pen. Let's look at our glyphs quickly, and we're going to infuse our jewelry. And on a DK, you can get away with around 1100 stam recovery, which I know seems really low, but that's more than plenty. Just because of the ult gen. Let's grab some damage glyphs quick. Physical harm. Grab a couple of those. Charismatic. And then weapon, we would probably want poison and disease. We might use an absorb glyph for minor breach. We'll see if we can get it any other way first. I'll chuck that there, and then that's minor disease. I'll probably use that because the minor disease is going to be helpful, or poison you pick because you got poison damage already, so I'll probably go disease. Let's put on all of our glyphs. So we've got no skills in. So our health is 28,000, okay? Let's get to about 32,000. And then get this up a bit. Drop that down to... There you go. Jay the Irish says it loves the theory crafting. I really like theory crafting. I really enjoy it. So this is like a generic DK build. Let's put some skills on and we'll see if the stats go to what you would expect. You want to use hardened armor now. This is a really big shield. But the dot damage is really low on this, but this shield is huge. Really good. Definitely use this. It's a way better morph nowadays. Coag is just disgusting. Let's keep that. We love good old Coag. You need a race against time or a movement skill. So we use race against time. You may use Vigor as well. That's quite just for the resolve. Obviously, the heal's nice, but the resolve is the main reason. You could obviously swap that for Ash Cloud though. Ash Cloud's quite popular to use. Front bar, Molten Whip. I personally prefer Venomous Claw. I think that's a better dot. It's really good. And Noxious Breath is just awesome. Major Breach. Like, why would you not use that? This is really good. By Shattering Rock for a heal when you stun them. So we've got burst heal, heal over time, movement skill, armor buff. We don't have a damage buff yet. So the way to get a damage buff is to either go with Mortal Weapons or to go with degen. In all honesty, degen is the better option, or you go Rally. But we're not using a 2H. So the damage buff will be the question mark. Let's put degen there as a placeholder. Put that back bar. Dragon Leap. And then Ferocious Leap. Huge shield, dirt cheap. And we probably want to have Inferno. No, it says whilst it's slotted in either bar, we get that crit buff. So this can be on a back bar or front bar. And we can go for Cauterize for heal over time, or Flames of Oblivion. Some people use this as a spammable to proc the Molten Whip. And the back bar would have Corrosive. Yeah, so that's kind of the skills we'd normally have, typically. If people have any kind of suggestions, obviously do far away, but that's kind of what I would use typically on a DK. I might change it slightly for Battlegrounds, for example, but generally that. I'm just going to put the CP in now, just to get a feel for what the tooltips look like, and then whether the scribing system can obviously offset some of the weaknesses, or like combine certain skills to save for spar space. That's a really big advantage of it. You could consider Focus Mending. This is really good with Coag. Massive heals. Or you go with Ironclad. And you use like Ironclad and Jeweler's Rebuff. The red ones, I'm not going to grab them because I don't actually change the tooltips. I'm just going to get this health here though, because that does change the stat page. Okay. Sib says, I wish they added some more non-slottable skill trees, as it's now only you need to be 1600 CP to get everything you need. Yes and no. I think for me personally, I like that you have to you can slot them in and out. So if you play PvE and PvP, you can change them quite freely. Or if you want to focus on certain things, so you go, oh, I'm on a Magicka Warden, for example, and I'm going to use the Vampire Spammable and Ice Reach. They're single target. But maybe I want to go AOE. I can then use Bite and Aura and then use Rifle Strikes. That'll buff my AOE damage. And so I can just slot out these. If you're going in PvE in between the two, even better. If you're in a Warden, you might go, oh, I'm in a group and actually I'm not really doing much damage. I can swap these and just chuck on the healing ones and be more useful. So it's kind of like that. It's meant to give you that flexibility. And not having a higher CP threshold to get max stats, I think is better because it helps people get into it. Let's jump into our stuff. So 800 stam recovery. Magicka recovery is 5-3. That's not high enough. So we will need some sustain or change our food. Let's change our food and use Bear Haunch. The cheaper version is Jaws Misrule. So I'm just looking at that. Obviously, we put on a damage buff. I'm just going to use this for the moment because it's to proc our damage buffs. The 5,700 already. I just feel like that recovery is a little. Let's put on a prismatic. Because we need a bit more stam recovery too. So we're going to go for jewelry glyphs. I'm going to go for 2 prismatic. I'm going to lose some damage, I know this. That gives you loads and loads of sustain. 5k weapon damage. What's our... This would obviously go up. So let's... Yeah, 15k whip, that's not too bad. Five, 3. You got to bear in mind we also have Rallying Cry that won't be shown on here. So Rallying Cry is worth 300. So let's add a glyph back on, just so we get a similar damage numbers to what we should expect. Oh, that should be physical then. Let's get a new jewelry one, and then we can go to the scribing place, and then make it. I'm putting this glyph on here. It's not the full 300, but it's close enough to give us what the Rallying Cry tooltip would look like. So then we know what our damage would look like with Rallying Cry on. So 5,300. 5,700. So that's pretty decent weapon damage. Our whip is 15,000. And we have lots and lots of sustain on this. Yeah, so that's plenty of sustain. Okay, we're going to go to the Scholarium now, I think it is. I can't think of anything else to tweak here. That's not going to change our stat page. Let's just make that defending really quick before I forget. Sib was saying that he doesn't feel there's any reason to level beyond 2,500 CP. This is kind of where he's at. I kind of get it, I do. But at the same time, I don't think you're ever going to find that balance between making the game accessible to new people whilst also being able to kind of have that value for endgame players. Because if you get value as an endgame player, then everybody has to get to the endgame to have the same power. So you need that value to kind of be flexibility or utility, things that like help but aren't going to make or break a build. So let's look at our skills. So we need a damage buff, basically, something that will give us damage, and an armor buff. This has resolve, but it's 10 seconds, so this wouldn't work. Class mastery. For each enemy within 8 meters, you gain up to 50 weapon and spell damage, and reduce your damage taken for 2% plus 1. So this is really good as an art mastery. It will be good to get this into there somewhere. This mastery alone, this is very good. So loads of damage, 300 damage, plus damage reduction. Obviously, it's up to that. How could we use it? The only skill I can kind of think is to drop Flames of Oblivion. We lose our crit buff. The damage is every 6 seconds, 5 seconds, sorry, and it's 6k, so it's not huge. Does this have resolve? Minor resolve. Heal over time, not huge. Class mastery. Immobilize. What does Soul Burst have? Immobilize. Plus Mastery and... Alright, so we could get quite a bit of damage out of this actually. The Expedition would be quite nice too actually. Let's try this. So we could drop this. We do lose our crit buff. I'm fully aware that we have low crit chance. But hear me out. Our crit chance is very low anyway. So I don't think the extra crit chance is going to make a big difference. It's 15% without it. With it, I think it was like 22%. 27%. So there is a difference. Let's just take it off quickly. 27%, 15%. So it's 12% we get for the major buff. Now, if we used the binding, this is basically talons now, but it gives us access to this script and movement speed. So that movement speed would be quite nice. So that might be an option. Or we could go with Breach for more penetration and use it more as a offensive tool. Me personally, I'll probably go with the Expedition. What about Contingency? What is this? This has got Immobilize. It does damage too. Does this one do damage? Does this do damage? No damage. Okay, let's look at Ulthrid. That is 3,700. So this is cheaper. So we go for the Immobilize, Class Mastery, and Breach. Crit damage, but we've got that already. Protection, I don't think we have protection with this build currently. Vulnerability, probably vulnerability. Or Breach. Breach would be the most versatile. If you're playing in group, you may want to change Ulthrid. This could go here instead. So we could do that and then just double cast it as an Immobilize. We do that and then go for like Breath, and you proc it that way. And then this is a lot cheaper to use. It also does a bit of damage. It's got a longer Immobilize. We could also use the Gladiator's Tenacity, which is 8% damage reduction. This is really good. Reserve Resolve. I'm just wondering whether we use this instead of Vigor. I'll probably leave that as that is. But we'll change this to Class Mastery instead though. And the reason we use this one is it gives us the Immobilize still. It does a little bit of damage. But the Immobilize is longer, which is good. So they don't have to stand, they have to spend longer with it. It's delayed. So what we can do, and we just go to an NPC spot, is we could go into a... Instead of doing Shattering Rock, you do the Mage Guild, then Shattering Rock. You'll get a stun and an Immobilize. Now whether it goes 1-2, I'm not sure. Or whether you do Shattering Rock Contingency skill, but you won't miss the damage window. We'll try this. So that's stun and immobilize at once. So you do get that class buff though. Yeah, what do you guys think? I don't know if you CC break with or break both. I think it would. I think if you immobilize and stun, one CC break will break both at once. I don't think there's anybody on the PTS I can actually test that with. Let me jump to the new zone. I just see if there's anybody here that we can just duel just to find that out, because that makes a big difference to if this is going to be useful or not. Hey, this guy's here. So I've just messaged somebody. Hopefully they'll help us. If not, we'll go into the Scholarium, see if there's anybody in there that will help us there. Is he AFK? Oh, there's another person. We'll see. Hopefully this guy will help us out. Because this will make a big difference. We've got a contingency on. Yeah. So we'll try again. I think it breaks both. Oh, so he can't move. Oh, that's busted. That is. But it looks like we can actually... This is really, really good if that's the case. So he's stunned and immobilized. And he has to roll to get out of it. Okay, this works then. This is actually really, really powerful. So when they break free... So... I will contingency him and then stun him and then he'll move. So we're going to ask him to like bunny hop and stuff. So my contingency is on. Yeah, so he's stunned and immobilized. And he can't move. He's trying to move. And he can't because he's rooted. You see that's the green stuff on his feet? That's really good. That is really, really strong. Yeah, this is actually really good for DK. I'm actually like really, really chuffed with this. So the binding is extra damage, firstly. More damage, so it's more burst. Now the damage obviously is very little, don't get me wrong, it is little. But it has a breach on it and that buff. So we can go but like this, bang, go for a whip. And then when they CC break, they still can't run. And it will drain stam, and people will expect it. That's the big thing. People will expect it. Because how many times if you CC break, you expect to move? Because with Fossilize, you know you have like the animation. So I'll ask him to Fossilize me. So if I CT break, I've got the big rocks around me to go, look, I'm still stuck. But when I do this, yeah, he will CC break, and then there's no like visual cue for him that he can move. So it's really hard to know if you're allowed to move or not with this. Really, really hard. So look, the little swirling bits tell me that I'm rooted, and the spikes too. So that's really, really strong as a combo. It's the dodging did not work from the CC, by the way. So if you stack those two, it's really buggy. But this is really good. Like this is really good. I'm gonna go and see what else we can do. But as Sib was saying, you can literally force somebody to CC break and then have to roll. And Shattering Rock, you can't do that. So this is really good. Like that's definitely worth looking into. I actually feel like we've got a good use for that skill now. Like this is actually really helpful. Because it gives us access to the class mastery, which is very good. I'm going to see if there's any other useful middle ones for that skill. But that delayed stun, perfect. So Contingency, Immobilize. The Tenacity's 8% damage reduction, that's really good. 30% snare, also really nasty. Dot. 2k damage within our next more burst. Let's try this. Because I think it's a flat 2k. Yeah, it's a flat 2k if I recall. Sim says, doesn't hurt, it looks really cool, that AOE dot graphic. I think what's good with this is, obviously, if I go, it's 3 damage. So it's 3,400, so it's 5,000 extra tooltip. Which essentially is what the Flames of Oblivion is, roughly. It doesn't do a lot. Plus it's Minor Breach, you don't normally have that. So you've got Minor Breach now easily in your kit, which is really good. That's a really hard buff for DK to get. Are there any other debuffs that might be better though with that? No, that's not good. Force, we got that already. Sustain, we don't need that. We don't need that. Vulnerability, but we can get that from Glyph. Shock Glyph. So I would then disease. Let's go for weapon glyphs. We'd want to use something like shock, because the shock could proc the minor vulnerability. We already have poison. We've got poison, fire, defile. So what else could we add then? So that's one option. This is a good skill. This is definitely worth looking into. You can just go with more flat burst. So using the immobilize, this is flat burst because you've got an extra 5k. This is a flat 2000. Or you could go with the snare, but you've got a snare and a DK, so you don't need this. You could go with tenacity for damage reduction. This is good. Or the mastery, which is again 50 weapon and spell damage. And there's loads of people you get even more. So this could be quite nice. Growing impact would mean breach would be an AOE on the floor that would debuff anybody in that circle. So if we did this, when you chuck it out, that big blue bit, now anybody in here will get the minor breach and it will reset to 20 seconds. And it lasts quite a long time. So that could be a good option too. I think immobilize, class mastery, breach is probably what I would run. But if I was going to go, if I'm playing in battlegrounds, I'd probably drop the mastery in all honesty and go for opportunity for more damage. The mastery is only good if you want to have a bit of defense, because it's 2% plus 1% per enemy, so it's a 3% damage reduction. That's still good. Sod it. We're going to have mastery. I think that's the best all-rounder. Warrior's probably more single target burst. So we've got one skill for DK that's really good. This is really good. Shattering we're going to keep. This is a good skill anyway. Noxious is a dot plus breach. So this is a really good skill. Claw could be changed. It's a very good dot, but this could be changed. Whip's obviously whip. Armor buff, shield, armor buff. Quag's good. Vigor might be the only one we'd changed. Let's see if we can. We could go down to Torchbearer, healing, resolve. Warrior's opportunity to increase the damage done to enemies with disabling effects by 10% for 6 seconds with each swipe. Or the mastery. Cleanse. Probably go tenacity. So what we could do is we could maybe swap figure out for this. So this is 14,000 over 5 seconds. When it's buffed, 17k. Obviously we'll get major mending, so this will go up quite a lot to like 20k quite easily, and that's from the Daedric Trickery. This is 6k, so 17, 6,000, so 6, 12, 18,360 in 2 seconds. So we could probably use this. I think this would probably be a better heal for us. Now the thing is that when you cast this, you can't be casting Vigor at the same time, so that's the only downside. Coag. So if we did Healing Torch, if we did Vigor, you can go Vigor, then Coag can get 2 heals in the same second, because you've got the hot still going while you spam Coag. So I don't know if this will be worth it. I might use this for group play, actually, because on a DK you can't help your team at all. This is actually something that if you are playing in a duo, you can at least help your people. It's got a pretty good range. So it's about this far. So it's not the biggest, but it's decent enough. What do you guys think? Do you think we should use the Healing Torch or Vigor? If it was you, Healing Torch versus Vigor. Those are the options. Hey, you're right, Lurch. It says. So that's Healing Torch. Put that there and just compare the two. So it's when they're buffed. So unbuffed, it's the same thing, got scale equally. 14,752, but it's 3 times. So 5, 10, 15,600, 700 roughly, 15,700, 14,700. So this is slightly more. Yeah, that's the only, I think, Centineo, I think it's how you pronounce it, I might have butchered it, sorry. He said Healing Torch is a channel though, you can easily get stunned out of it. Well, you can, but you got 30% damage reduction while you're doing it, and it's on your character. So let me see if I can see where it is. Is there anything that shows you your damage reduction? Does that purple glow? See that purple glow? So that's 30% damage. Well, that glows on us. Lurch says have one scribing thing is smash, bleed damage, class mastery, and mangle, but it's melee. What class, Lurch? I've gone through most classes, so I've gone through Sorcerer, Warden. I've also gone through Nightblade. This is DK now. The Nightblade was Magblade and also Standblade, so like ranged and melee. The range had more use. The melee was just the burst hill. That's about it. The Magden had quite a few options. Sulk had one really good option. That was about it. So you're saying this smash. The smash is a channel, isn't it? Bleed damage. With mangle, so that's down here. That's for the max health. Well, actually, the bonus of the full-in thing. Does it give you minor toughness then? So I'm just curious now. Does it? Would it do the opposite? Because you don't mangle, do you? Let me just grab a quick 2H. Weapons, Daedric Trickery. I was just curious how that actually skill works. So, with all the Sulks and Magdens running around, I'm staying away from your channel skills. Yeah. The thing is with channels though, just so you're aware, if you are interrupted, your following channel can't be interrupted because it's CC immune. So, if you get hit with, say, Crushing Shock, so if you get hit with Crushing Shock, for example, and you CC break, you can then just cast it again. And that's what Salmon or Sorcerer does with the Dark Conversion or Dark Deal. So that's how they keep just spamming it. Even though you interrupt them, you like bash them like there's no in tomorrow. And you're like, why can't I bash you? Because they've got CC immunity once they get interrupted once. The only things that bypass that seems to be resurrections, or if you're going for a relic in like Battlegrounds or something. But yeah, I do think that the channel is, that's the only kind of iffy bit I have. But you got Coag, that's your big burst heal. And this is to heal allies, and it's an armor buff. That's what this is for, really. It's your vigor buff. It's 20%, 20 seconds of minor resolve, plus that 30% damage reduction. So like 30% damage reduction is like holding block. Block's 50%, but it's closer. You get the idea with Vampire. This is going to be really tanky. Sib said, could you imagine how horrible Relic would be if you got CC immune after one bash? Yeah. With the Smash then, so I just want to see how this one works. Wayfarer's Mastery. Grants the bonus of the following passive. The following passive ability. The follow-up passive ability. So if I cast that and do like something like this. Nope. Maybe I am being really dumb. You're probably going, Dan, this is like freaking obvious. Fixed scripts only apply to you. Yeah, well that's what I was thinking, but do they literally just mean the follow-up passive? Yeah, they mean that then. And that's the 10%, so you don't have to heavy attack. When completing a fully charged heavy attack, your damage done with two-handed abilities is a 10% more for 4 seconds. So you can just spam this, and this will just count as you doing heavy attacks. You can tell it's midnight where I am, by the way, so you can tell it's somewhat late. This, maybe it's just me being daft because it's late. And maybe I've misread it. But if it just said, grants you the follow-up passive ability in the two-handed weapon line, which is just a little bit clearer. And only for the info with the back jump, you can glitch out of the map in dungeons and to buy. Yes, they have nerfed it though, LT Lurch. I don't think this will be a good. I don't think the damage is high enough on this though. So let me put on. Oh, that was meant to be my damage buff there. Let's put on the mortal weapons just to get a damage buff up. So we have currently 5-3. It's like almost 6,000 fully buffed. But 5-3, 7,000 AOE tooltip versus a single target of 9,400. So this is, you can't dodge this though, that is worth noticing. So you got bleed. What did you use with yours? Just have a look in the chat. Smash, he said smash, bleed, damage, class, mastery and mangle. Yeah. With the sorcerer I was using on my Silk the Wield Soul Shock with the class mastery because you get the extra 2,000 tank on the tooltip, which works out one of the best spammables for Sulk. It's like really freaking good. Bleed, damage, mastery, remove snares. No, well that's snare immunity. That could be quite nice. Deflects the next immediate. This is really toxic 1v1. Centauro said, did they fix the streak skill? Yes. It's not fixed fully, but it is better. Yeah, with the pet one, you have to, if you put pets on it, heals, doesn't it? When they attack. Immobilize, Leech and Thirst. What's a good spammable for Sulk? I'll show you in a sec. I'll switch over to it to set up already. Bleed. Yeah. I think for me, for DK, I wouldn't actually use the Smash. I don't think it's viable for how I'd play it. The Travelling Knife is this is like garbage. This is absolute garbage. And this is like one of the worst. It's 3,400 stamina. This is 2,007. This is like way too much stamina for what it does, and the damage is really like crap. You don't need to pet without pet mix. Yep. Yeah, without the pet it's 2,000. I think it's 2,100 on my build. I'm going to just show you the vault quick because people did ask about the vault change. It did get changed. Let's just go bush. These will do. Vault is... I didn't show it on Nightblade actually. Vault is good as an escape tool on a bomber. Yeah, Sib's like 3,400 stamina. Yeah. So Vault, they said they... Oh, bollocks. You can tell it's very late. So that's the range. Vault's fatigue as well. So you've got a streak cost. So when you use this, it will drain stamina. So use it once a little bit. Use it again. Use it again. So you see it's using all my stamina up. So it's got the scaling increase that streak has now, which is good. So you could use this as a backward streak, which is quite nice on a Nightblade. So if you gank somebody on a sniper, for example, I'd use this. This is like to get me out, go shit, I'm going to get killed. This is actually quite good. And what you can do with this is immobilize them. You can then snare them. And then you can give yourself expedition. So on a Nightblade, this is your get out of jail button. You push this, you lock people in place. They get slower when they CC break. You also move faster. Now obviously on the Nightblade you have minor expedition already, so you can change this to like evasion. You get major evasion. 20% damage reduction is ridiculous. Or you can get major savagery for more crit chance. But yeah, I'll probably go with major evasion personally as a I'm gonna die. This is what I'm gonna use. X Juggy says, is 2H better than Dizzy? No. In my opinion, I think Dizzy's better. Dizzy hits way harder. It sets off balance, you've got an easier stun. It's faster to weave with. The only advantage that this has is this does not miss, is AoE. So it's 0.6 seconds. So let me put my weapons back on that I had earlier. Ice Staff. Trickery, trickery. So, with the 2H, 6,000, 8,800. So it's already higher, and this will scale proportionately the higher your damage is. So the higher your base damage, the bigger the difference will be. We'll put on our damage buff. 10,000, 7,000. There's 3,000 difference. It's interesting. Dizzy Chads unites. Dizzy will never get outclassed. And if Dizzy and Swing got you off balance, they're snared. If they can't be stunned, Wreck and Blow's major berserk. This is 3,000 stamina. This is 2,400 stamina. So this is 800 more stamina roughly. This is cheaper to use. It has a 7 meter range. This has an 8 meter range. So the range is very similar. The difference is though that this is a channel, so when you actually use this, it drags it on the floor, so you have to aim it. With Dizzy Swing, you just look at the target, and as long as you're just near them, it will hit them. Even if you're behind them, it'll still hit. So Dizzy is better in my opinion. For the DK then, looking at what we've got so far, we've got a really freaking good skill here. This is really good. I don't know if you saw this LT Lurch on DK, this skill. This is like God mode. It's stupidly broke. Sib said, empower on the other morph still boggles my mind. Who's using Wreck and Blow into a heavy attack? So PvE lovers. Dizzy is haunting my dreams. That's how strong it is. Yeah, Lurch, if you're still there, did you see this? What this does? I'm just checking. Centurion was saying about it probably cheese my way. Nice is like not the right word. Honestly, it's broke. Like it actually is broken. I'll see if somebody's in Skingrad. I'll show it again. Like it is. So on classes that have access to an instant stun that you can't block. Oh, I can ask this person here. Say so. He waited, perfect. Oh, no, he's running off. He's running off. Oh, no. He's running off. He's running off. He's still going. Oh, he might help us show it. You have a new skill slot. Yeah, so watch what this does. This is ridiculous, okay? Ready? So I'm going to hit him with it. So I'll put on my skill, then go for this Fossilize. This is the... And then look, he's trying to move, and he can't move. So what happens with that contingency is the Immobilize, then now he's allowed to move. It still procs. So when I hit him with it, he's immobilized and something. He CC breaks. He has to roll dodge. And if you don't do the roll dodge, you're still locked in place. So you don't have no real telegraph to know that you're immobilized. So he's trying to move. He can't move. There you go. Now he's had to roll. So what's happening is, because this is delayed, the stun procs first, thus they're stunned. So in the order of the debuffs, it's the stun, then the immobilize, because this is a secondary effect. And what makes it really nasty is that you have no telegraph. So with Fossilize, you've got the rocks around your feet still. So you're like, oh, I still need to CC, I've got a roll dodge. This combo doesn't do that. It also does a little bit of extra damage. So a little bit of extra damage. Minor breach, we debuff their armor, which this is hard to get on DK. This is really hard. You get major easily. So now you've got extra pen, which is awesome. You've got this nice access, this really good buff here. And you also have a bit of extra damage. So when you combine these here, this is extra damage plus this damage. So this is now like having delayed spammable damage when you combine the two of these, because this will go off, this will go off, then you go into a massive whip. Really freaking good. So I was very pleased that I was testing that and managed to find a really good use for that skill on DK. Like really, really good use. Centaur is saying that skill plus the Arcanist stun will be nasty because they will dodge a mid-roll, they get stunned. Yes, that would work really well. Because you'd have to be next to them, though. That's the only thing. So with this, you'd obviously cast it, then you cast the Arcanist stun, so they're immobile, so they'll roll, and then it gets stunned. So that would work really well as a combo. And you can obviously put Minor Breach with it, so you've got your pen buff, which again is quite hard to get. Arcanist has it with the armor buff. So you could swap this out, just thinking about the Arcanist. Immobilize, the class mastery is a crux gen, so you probably wouldn't use that, to be honest. I'd probably go for tenacity and get 8% damage reduction on this. So I'd have my immobilize, make me tankier, thank you very much. Or go for a snare. Arcanist doesn't have a snare, and not a good one. This is a pretty decent one. Or the Warrior's Torment is just more damage, more burst. So it's probably going to come down to tankiness or damage, in my opinion. And then I'll probably go with Force and get your crit buff, or get an evasion and reduce their crit damage, because you've got Breach already. You've got Vulnerability already from your rune. You've got Resolve already from Vigor. You've got Access Protection quite easily. But you could use this, or you could use that regen. But something like this would be quite nice. And again, it's 22 seconds of mag and stam recovery, so this could be quite good. But for DK, we are using it like this. Immobilize, the class mastery buff, and then the breach. Centauri is going, man, with all these skills, they should give us a new skill slot per bar. I don't even know what to change out. That's what I've been doing in this stream. I've literally been going through every class that I've made builds on to go, what would we actually swap out to actually make the class better? I'll do a quick summary because I'll go in a moment. To summarize the DK, what we have changed, so in order to kind of make this somewhat useful, this is what I would recommend using. You keep the DK kit as the same. You will then want to have Binding Contingency. This is your Immobilize, and it's also a damage buff and a defense buff and a debuff. This is very good. You use this into Shattering. Slightly extra burst, slightly more stamps, drain, so really nice. You then have a choice for Healing Torch, which will give you your armor buff and the ability to heal allies, and it gives you a 30% damage reduction. So if you are low health, you can literally just cast it. So push it, then get the swing, and then block, cancel Coag. And you'd have 30% damage reduction for a couple seconds. There wasn't anything else, in my opinion, for DK that you would actually use. The shield throw is a damage shield, that's not going to help. The Elemental Explosion, if you use an Ice Staff, is not going to help because it's 2-second cast. The Soul Burst is an AoE, so it's very expensive, not going to help. We're already using Contingency. We'd probably use Torchbearer. Trample you may want to use, but this is for more group plays. So like Trauma, for example, with group plays quite nice. With the Immobilize and then the Defile. So for DK, I'd recommend those two skills. Torchbearer. And then Contingency. Everything else is not worth it, in my opinion. The other stuff, it just costs too much. It doesn't really do enough compared to what we have already. I'm going to show you the other skills quick on the other classes I set up tonight. And again, these were all with real builds of what I would actually run. So that way you can go, oh, I could do this. So on the Nightblade, I was testing a Magicka Nightblade. So if people are curious, can you make a Magblade work? I've not been able to duel anybody with this. We'll try this in Battlegrounds or Cyrodiil. But my feel is that this will be more viable than it is currently. So on a Nightblade, the skills that I thought were quite good, in all honesty, for a ranged Magicka Nightblade. And this was using War Maiden, Wretched Vitality, and Magma Incarnate. With Death Dealers. When we're buffed up with our spell damage, front bar we have 3,900 with our stacks of Relentless Focus. Wherever I put that, let me put that somewhere, sorry. So it then goes up to like 4,400, so we'll show that quickly. Juggy says, have I tried that new crit trial set? I haven't myself. I've seen it, but I haven't tried it. Centauri says, overall, I think there'll be 1 or 2 meta skills that you can put on all classes, like the Vatashan and Masters combo. I think the Willed Soul is very strong, but it's strong because it's a single target, so it's very good at one thing. It's either a good spammable or it's a good heal. There's no in the middle. It doesn't do like a good debuff. It's kind of one or the other. It's very good at damage or very good at healing. There's no in the middle. Just showing this stat page because this helps with the tooltips. Okay, so we have... Oh, why is my cloak not working? There you go. So 4,600 spell damage. Now, bearing in mind that we've got the War Maiden on, so that's 600, which gets buffed up by Major Sorcery. So that with the Major Sorcery in our base bit, this is like an extra 700, 800. So we've got about 5,400 spell damage roughly on this build. So we come at the Vampire Sneak. So that just gives you an idea the tooltips. 4,960, sorry. So about 5.5. Dazing Soul. So Dazing Soul is probably the best Nightblade one in my opinion. This will give you access to a ranged stun that you don't have normally, which means you've got a ranged immobilize and a ranged stun, which is very helpful. Cheers for the sub, by the way. And you also have access to Major Breach, which saves you a bar slot. The Burning Children cast doesn't do enough damage for a Nightblade. Your damage is bursty with Merciless Resolve and Shooting Star. And these are really hard to land because you can't stun, whereas now you can stun, so these will be much easier to land at range. This is also cheap because it pays for some of its resource back. So you get 1,000 Magicka, so it's only a 3,000 stun, so it's quite cheap. As for the other skills, they're not really good. If you were to go and play a Stamina Nightblade or a melee Magicka Nightblade, the other good skill was the Wield Soul skill again, but you have to use it as a heal. So I'll show you what that would look like. So just popping into the Scholarium. So showing what the heal version would look like. So it's like, what's a melee Magblade? They're all the same Magblades. For the heal, you'd go with healing, Druid's Resurgence, Vitality. This will give you a heal that's 4,800, but you lose it about 1,000 cheaper because you get the 1,000 back, so it's now 3,800. You get Major Vitality as an 11,000 tooltip. So if we compare that to the heal we'd have instead, this is 12,000. So this is higher, but you have to spend 3,000 health. You have to spend 1,000 health, so it ends up being the same tooltip. But the difference is that the skill we've just made as the heal, where's our soul magic? It's now 3,800, and it's got Major Vitalities, which will give us much more stuff. This is the PTS. It's week 4, so what normally happens is they don't change much. At this point, what you see here is generally what will go live. There might be 1 or 2 ever so such weeks, but they very rarely change stuff drastically. LT Lurch said, I can really see that range one for bombing. So you're thinking of this one maybe. Elemental Explosion, I did test this on a Nightblade, and I was dueling against somebody from the community called Streak. We got this up to about an 18,000 tooltip. I then paired this with Winterborn, and I paired it with Tarnished Nightmare. Against his Sorcerer, who had about 25,000 resist, we were doing about 24,000 burst. So it wasn't enough to one-shot people. It was good. Don't get me wrong, like really good. You literally cast this and you hit really freaking hard. But it doesn't gank people. If you had 2 people do it, you'll get a kill easily. So this is like duo ganking, in my opinion. Saint Beast says that shield throw and a heal cleanse looks so good for my Stanblade ganker. Shield throw, you got the heal. I can't see the heal on here anymore. I thought it healed as well. Or if you mean the heal cleanse, do you mean the torch bearer, which with healing and cleanse? This is good. Or there is this one. I think this has a cleanse down here too. There's also this one too, which you can roll dodge cancel. But this is very expensive at 5k, really expensive. Yeah, on shield throw, there's no heal on there. It's immobilized, not back, magic damage, multi-target, physical, pull or taunt. There's no heal on this. I thought there was a hill. I was convinced there was a hill as well. But, you know, maybe I've gone mad. Hey, cheers for the sub, Louis. So, yeah, for Nightblade, 5k. Bear in mind, I am on a primary... I don't know, actually. I've got a lot of light armor. Yeah, if I was on a stand build, it would go down a bit. If healing's just expensive. If you look, it's 1,000 different because it's an AOE heal. And you go, this is 5,100. Let's look at combat prayer. This is the most equitable skill. So near 5,100, it's the same cost as this. So I get why they've done it. It's the same resource cost as that heal. So it's balanced in line with what's there already. You can also add a heal over time on this. And like courage or resolve. So yeah, that's essentially 12,000, obviously over 10 seconds as such. The restoration one is 7,300. If you went for the other one, it's 8,300. Or you sort of berserk with it. So again, they're kind of like quite balanced in my opinion. So that's for Nightblade. There isn't much else you'll use. If you want a sniper, you might use Vault and use something like Immobilize, Hunter Snare, and Evasion. This will get you out of trouble basically. It's like, I don't want to die. Push this and run away. That's what this skill's for. Push this, go into cloak and run away. Beyond that, the other skills aren't really worth it. The Contingency is too clunky to use in a burst combo. It just doesn't do enough. The only way around it, which I was kind of playing around with, but again it's clunky as hell, is if you did Mage Guild Fire Contingency, you'd have to be sneaking. You cast this, which pulls you out of stealth. And then when you get near to the target, so we'll walk up here. So imagine that's the target we're going for. We'd then go with cloak here, light attack, surprise attack. And that would then proc that. But you have to be next to them and not get pulled out of stealth before you do that. If you roll dodge at any point, this will proc. So that's not really good for ganking. So if you want to use this as a gank skill, it's not for that. And the rest of them aren't really useful for Nightblade. So the only useful one we really have is Healing Soul if you're on a melee build, or if you're on a range build like I am on this setup, you go with Stun, the Resurgence, make it cheaper, and then Breach. Saves your bar space. The Mastery is pretty bad. The Oblivion damage is pretty bad. The Torment's pretty bad. The Hots were pretty bad, so this is the best combo for that. And it will give you the ability to stun and immobilize that range on a Nightblade again, which is really, really good. I'm going to switch to the Warden quick. If you have any other ideas of how those skills could be tweaked for Standblade or Magblade, Bombers, etc., then obviously put in the chats, but that's kind of my initial ideas of what I would use them for. With the Sulk, Sorcerer has one really, really good scribe skill for PvP. And again, these are all builds that people would actually run. This is what I'd be using next patch. Like if I took this would work next patch. It will be a solid build. For Sorcerer, what we would run, in my opinion, is Shocking Soul. This is a spammable tooltip. It comes live, I think it's 2 weeks for PC and then 3 or 4 weeks for console. For Sorcerer, you want to run Shocking Soul. This is 9,100. So what I'm going to do is put next to it the Sigil, which is the most equitable skill. So Sigil is 1,900 Magicka. This is 2,200 Magicka, so 300 difference. I'll put on my damage buff so you can. There we go. 9,000 tooltip. 9,600. So elemental weapon is 600 higher, but with the class mastery you get this 2,000 extra. 2,200, and this scales with max resource. I've been testing this. This goes up with max resource. The higher resource pool, the bigger this is. Spell damage does not buff this properly. It's like really, really poor scaling. So if you go, this is now 11,200. This is a harder hitting skill than this skill here. You can then also add on Major Breach, which will save you a bar slot. So then you can choose to run a different skill. So for example, the way in which I would use this is on the Archmage build that I have. So it's Crafty Alfie, Wretched Vitality, Tudun, Death Dealers. You can put Trainee on the chest, which I didn't do, but that should be... Oh, I did do it on this one. This is like the meta Sorc build, most balanced. I quite like Asylum though. What you'll then do with this is this will give you access to Major Breach, which means you can drop Elemental Drain or Susceptibility. Because in all honesty, the dot damage from Susceptibility is very bad. And you can then run another heal like Echoing Vigor, which will heal you and allies. So as a sorcerer, this will give you a heal over time, about 500 in PvP every 2 seconds, 500-600 every 2 seconds. But more importantly, you can heal allies. Or you could use that flex spot to put something else there of choice. So obviously with this being a ice staff, you could go with Elemental Drain and get more Magicka recovery. You could go down from the support skill line and we just put one of these as a passive 10% Magicka recovery boost, sorry. You could, for example, if you wanted to, with me, go with Flare. Major protection now, you're tanky. Really tanky on the back bar. So by changing our spammable and having Breach on this instead, we now get major protection when we're in the back bar, making us tankier, which is really nice. Centaur also running Crushing Weapon, so that's Major Breach. Yeah, you can drop it. This is the better version. And it's magic, so you don't have to worry about stam and all that weird shenanigans. It hits hard, it's got Major Breach, it's just a better version. Getting the masteries will take ages, just a heads up, but this is definitely worth getting. The other way you could use this, which is what I also liked, is go to Wield Soul, again, Shock Magic, Class Mastery, but go for Resolve. Now with this version, Saint says, Crushing is good in PvP charged. Yeah, Crushing's great. Crushing Shock with charged is really good because you proc the status effects and they hit like 300-400 each. So if you proc 2 or 3 of those, it's extra 600 damage. And if you're weaving, there's a lot of extra free damage. And with the Asylum staff, it goes to like stupidly broken. Saint was also asking, think they will nerf Tarnish and Cinder? No is the answer. Tarnish is similar tooltip to Winterborn. So if they nerf Tarnish, they have to nerf Winterborn. If they nerfed Cinder, Cinder's similar damage to Flame Blossom. So they're similar to sets that already exist in the game. LT says, I was getting the smash melee was about 11k on your Sorc. It was only damage, yeah. If you did this change with the Wield Soul, so you have Shock and Soul, so it's shock damage, class mastery, and armor. The advantage of this is that you'd have to, again, put your susceptibility back bar for the breach. But what you do get, though, is your armor buff, which means you can change your monster set. You don't have to run this anymore. So then if you want to go with the Resolve, you can change the monster set on this build and go for something that's more beneficial to your playstyle. So good ones, for example, are things like... where did I put them? Here. I thought I took them all out, I didn't take them out. So something like Balorg, if you use Overload. Not Overload, sorry, Shooting Star. This is good if you use Shooting Star. If you use Overload, Bloodspawn, this will also give you more armor and stam sustain, which can be turned into Magicka. So this is very good. You could then use Chokerthorn for a heal. Engine Guardian is just, everybody loves it. It's really good. So by doing it this way, you can then drop your monster set for something else. Yeah, no, it's a Centauro. It's almost 1 AM where I am, so I know the pain. So for Sulk, that is like the best skill. Everything else you're not going to use because you've got a good shield, you've got a good heal. So I would kind of leave that as it is. The last one I want to show is just Magicka Warden, and then I will call it here. And these are builds that you could then run in PvP that will work, and more importantly, they will give you an idea of what you could do to make the class better or the build better. See ya, Saints. Yeah, so you had a LT was saying he had an 11,000 bleed tooltip. It was all damage though. Your Dizzy and Swing there must have been about a 14k tooltip, Dizzy and Swing on that build. For Magicka Warden, you have a few options, okay? So, option 1, in my opinion, and this is using the Frostbite 2-bar version. So this is having Ice Staff front bar perfected, so it's the Master's Ice Staff, Rallying Cry back bar. You can pick which Vitality you need to sustain. 1 Baron, 1 Magma, Ice Furnace. You then have Rallying Cry. This is a really solid setup. If you do this, I would use Days in Soul. You need a stun. Magicka Warden doesn't have a stun, that makes it really hard to kill people. And if you did this, you can then drop Dawnbreaker and run Northern Storm. And you can stun them whilst your Northern Storm's up, so they eat the Northern Storm. Or you can stun them at range and make them eat a Heavy Attack Deep Fissure combo. So this will work really nicely. It also hits Major Defile, which makes their healing reduced. So this will make it easier to kill people because they're not healing as much, which Warden really struggles with. So this is really helpful. If you wanted to, then with your glyph, if you change this to a disease glyph, so let me find a glyph of Defile, wherever it is. Is it Foulness or something it's called? Maybe I already have one out. Bear with me. Foulness, there we go. Sorry, I must have missed it. If you did this, you'd have Minor Defile as well. So then what you would then have is you'd have Minor Defile plus Major Defile, so you have 18% healing reduction now on a Magicka Warden, which is really good. This will really help you get kills. On the back bar, you have a few options of what you do for your heal. You basically go Polar Wind, because it's a good heal over time with Living Trellis. And you go Healing Torch. The Healing Torch, Fighter's Guild. This will give you your heal, it gives you your armor buff, and it gives you 30% damage reduction. If you don't want to run that, you just run Vigor instead. I did experiment with using Willed Soul as a healing skill. And Vitality. This is a really good burst heal. And on a full damage build, it's about 14,000 tooltip. Arctic Blast has been buffed, and it's about a 10k tooltip, so it was only 1,000 or 2,000 more. It wasn't huge. It does cost a lot of Magicka. If you did this, you don't have the heal over time of Polar Wind. So I found that when I went with Healing Soul, yes, I have a slightly higher burst heal, but I don't have that heal over time that Polar Wind gives us. And for context, bear in mind, I'm only on, I think it's 28k health. So normally you'd go up to like 32, 33k health. This is 2.5k tooltip. On my PvP Frostbite build, 1 bar is 3k. This burster will go up to about 13k on a full build. So if you push your health up, it'll go even higher. So with that in mind, that's kind of what you'd want to do on Magicka Warden. There's no better skills that you have. The last skill that I did show was the Chilling Contingency. So this will put the rune on you, and it does frost damage around you with this extra 2,000 on you. and minor falls, which means you then have your crit buff. This is now 8,300. My spammable is 7,500. This is actually more than a spammable and a single target spammable. And what's nice is that when you cast this, if you just keep double casting, it will proc again and again and again. So like this. And it is an 8 meter radius. So if you're curious what that looks like, in the Sigil order, it looks like this. Is that big? So that AOE around you is this big. There's no target cap either. So that's kind of what I would recommend. If you do have questions about the stuff that I've shown though, then obviously do sort of comment and stuff. But I'm going to kind of wrap it up here because it's been long enough. It is very late where I am. And I just want to say obviously a big thanks to all the people that likes, comments, shares and subscribe. It really helps out. And I also want to say a massive thanks to all the people on Patreon. If you want to support myself on Patreon, get access to videos early and all that stuff, there are details down below. There's a link here as well. I'm also going to put a link to my Discord if you have any questions after the stream, where you can, chat with myself or other people who, we're quite laid back. So there'll be a link as well. So that's if you want to join the Discord too. But I'm going to kind of call it here because it is quite late where I am, to say the least. I'll catch you in the next video or in the next stream, guys. So thanks for watching. Take care. And bye.